good evening, Barbados. We are ready. We are ready. The opposition is ready. Let me hear the opposition. Y'all ready?
Yeah, we ready. Good evening, everyone. I'm ready.
Heather, I tell you, this opposition is ready. Before I even before I went live, Tracy was on. The first who was on was Tracy Barrow, Natasha, and they were greeting each other. Good night, everyone. Tracy says, "Hey, Tracy." And then Natasha says, "Let's like and get our sharing on." And
Yes,
we're
yes,
agreeing with Natasha, right, Heather?
yes, definitely.
Well, if you're watching us for the first time, this is I'm Marcia Weeks and my co-host Heather Cole, and this is the Marcia Weeks show. And let me tell you, this is the opposition. If you did not know, but we form part of the opposition in Barbados because we're citizens of Barbados, and the citizens, they have risen up and they are saying, listen, we are taking hold of our country. We want our nation back. We want back our morals. We want back our economy. Anybody out there with me? Let me hear the opposition. Come on, man. Tell me where you're watching from. Opposition, where you watching from? Mystic Angel, which parish are you in, or which country? Like Heather, some of the opposition, they're in outside of Barbados. You're in New York, right?
Yes, I am. And
Oh
it
my
is
goodness.
a beautiful evening in New York. The weather is still good. It is not cold yet, and the sun is about to set. So it's a beautiful day.
Wonderful. Well, listen, as I said, we have opposition in the diaspora that makes up this huge opposition. And this is Pauline Maynard, and she says, "Good night to all from Maryland." So this is a Bajan living in Maryland, and oh, Mystic Angel, we in Barbados. I'm with you, Mystic. Listen, 200 and how many thousand of us here, we make up the opposition. You know why? Because we are the ones who went to the ballot box. We stood in line, and we elected people. We gave them jobs. And so tonight we are coming on here to make them accountable. And every opportunity that we have, guys, we make them accountable. Not because we want to be the opposition, we just want to create noise, but because it is important in any democracy. And opposition is important. Very good. Hi, Sonia. How you guys doing? Please share. We want to make sure that you're sharing. Waiting for Mr. Franklin to come on, and tonight we have with us Vincent Smith. Is going to be on with us and continue to talk to us about the child protection bill. And today I was really just thinking about Barbados, been praying about Barbados, and someone sent me the scripture. And the good thing about us is that we are from all different religions. You have the Rastafari, my brothers Bongo and Lumumba, and we have those in the Muslim community and all different kinds of religions, and we're coming together. We are people who love Barbados. We're citizens of Barbados, and we've come together. But I'm of the Christian faith, and I want to read tonight from you for a little bit for you from Isaiah 10 from the Message Bible. And it says, "Doom to you who legislate evil, who make laws that make victims." Sounds familiar? Laws that make
Yes, it
misery for
does.
the poor. Right, Heather? Sound like the NIS bill, right? The
Yes,
pension
it
bill.
does.
Laws that make misery for the poor, that rob my destitute people of dignity, exploiting defenseless widows. Huh? This is the elderly, poor people taking advantage of homeless children. What will you have to say on Judgment Day when doomsday arrives out of the blue? Who will you get to help you? Who we want to ask our lawmakers, those we're going to talk about in general terms, people who are losing their land in this country, people who because they speak out, they are being they are what's the word they're
Facing a gag order. Facing a gag
facing
order.
gag order because they're trying to, thank you, Heather, they're trying to speak up for themselves. Huh? What good will your money do? What good will your money do you? Those people who are oppressing the poor, robbing the poor, taking up from people what don't belong to you. You're taking it away from people. So many vendors. Look at the woman in Oystins. If there wasn't this social media cry and the general media, what would have happened to her and her stall? Having lost her mother a month before and then to lose the family business. This is what is happening in our country, and the Spirit of God is totally aggrieved. Those who legislate evil. Huh? In Jamaica, we say box bread out of people's mouth. The scripture said, a sorry sight you'll be then, huddled with the prisoners, or just some corpse stacked in the street. Even after all this, God is still angry. His fist still raised, ready to hit them again. Do we want to see the judgment of God on this land? Is that what we want when we are treating the poor? We're treating the destitute. We're treating the orphaned. We are, pulling away children from their parents and doing all kinds of evil. People in authority raping children. Oh my goodness, look at the state of our country. Look at what Mr. Franklin talked to us about, how the government itself, how they're treating they are treating their own workers, the injustices against the public servants, the government who makes the laws, they are breaking the laws. This is the Barbados that we live in at this moment. This is the Barbados that we live in, and it is a shame. And God's Spirit is grieved. And that is why God has raised up people to speak about it and against it. So we won't listen to people like Miss, Wilfred Abrams. In an article today, I don't know if we can get the article. It was yesterday's article talking about those people who feel that they need to be an opposition. Feel? We don't feel like we need to be an opposition. We are obligated. We are citizens of this country. We are citizens of this country. And it is part of the democracy. You weren't speaking like that when we had to go out and to when you weren't speaking like that when we went out and we voted for you in the hot sun. Were you speaking to us like that? In this article where he talk about what cover up, he states in there that how there are people who feel they need to be the opposition. We need to let him know it's more than feeling. It's a crying shame what is happening in Barbados at this time. When sick people could be in a hospital without electricity in this day and age. Sick people without electricity. That is the time. That is the kind of Barbados that we are living in. But I want to remind the opposition today. I want to remind the opposition today of our duties. The opposition, the role of the opposition is to keep the government accountable. Our role is to keep the government accountable. How many of you are committed to that? not to any party, not to the DLP or the BLP, regardless of who is in power, and especially now when it's 30-0. Our role is to keep the government accountable, to scrutinize, closely examine the work of the government. We need to be asking the government to explain its actions, like we're going to be talking about those things tonight. The ID. You tell us one thing and then go back and come back with another story. We are confused. Madam Prime Minister, we are confused. Yes? We are here to provide alternatives to government policies. That's what we're here to do. We are the opposition. That's what we're here to do. Welcome, Mr. Caswell Franklin. How are you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm well, and thanks for having me on the show again tonight. I heard you said something just now that we might be incurring God's wrath if we don't think. I think we have done so already, and that is why He's punishing us with 30 love. He said, "Well, you don't want me, take who you want." You know, you remember when the story when they worship the golden calf, God was offended because the people rejected him. Well, Barbados rejected him and they've taken on this monster and her government. And so he said, well, okay, you want to have her. We're being punished. I have no doubt about that at all.
Yeah.
And she surrounded herself with, I don't want to call them fools, but I'm trying to find a word that not but be nicer, but I can't help it. Somebody told me what Abrams have said. When I see it, I turned off by him. Because I used to have some respect for him, And he squandered it all one day when he got on the radio and TV during the time when the prison officers were accused of having COVID and hiding away from the authority, law, and he was on the radio and they are urging those people to turn themselves in. He should have known, or ought to have known, or must have known that all three of those officers had gone to the clinic, were tested, and were placed in isolation by the medical doctor. So they reported that to the prison authorities. They reported to the duty manager. Everybody knew, including the superintendent knew. But yet still the minister went on the radio and had those people in terror. Their families from the United States called, crying because they think their family were fugitives and what they're going to get themselves involved in. All they did was obey the instructions from a medical practitioner because we were under a state of emergency. And
so you're saying he knew they knew where the people were.
He had to have known. And the thing is, if he didn't know, he told him. Because
you had told him, and he still went on the radio, and because I remember that, and it sounded like they were on the run.
They weren't on the run. All of them were home. They were home, and everybody knew where they were. As a matter of fact, the police turned up at their house. As a matter of fact, they made those people look so demonized that the police came and the police were scared.
Right.
So, and they sent the police for them. They sent the police for them. And I tell them, no worry, the police are coming. Oh, you're going to start coughing. And the police won't come in the house. But they wanted to, I believe, because those three were part of a group that had the superintendent of prisons before the court. One of the cases was the case where we were alleging that the amendments to the prison act that prevented prison officers from becoming members of a trade union was unconstitutional. Well, thanks to Justice McCarthy, we know that position. I remember quite well when I took the matter to the lawyer. With those three officers, there were four of them at the time.
Yeah.
The lawyer said that case doesn't have any merit. I said, I'm not asking you if it has merit. I'm asking you to fight it because I can't fight it. I'm not a lawyer. We are going to pay you. Mind you, I saw that same lawyer. I saw that same lawyer jumping up and thumping his chest, forgetting that we had to fight him as well because he was saying that the case had no merit. Well, Justice McCarthy proved that it had merit, and no prison officers can join unions. Like the matter of fact, prior to 1982, they were members of unions, and the government passed an amendment to the Prison Act that barred them from becoming members of union and made it a criminal offense for them to join unions. But that act did not amend the Constitution. They already had that right to join, and they were already members of the union. So I argued for years until an association because the Prison Officers had a Prison Officers Association now that could not associate with unions. They couldn't even go to meetings with unions. And so I constituted myself as Veritas Services consultant, and I dealt with them under that head. So they were not consulting with trade unionists that would have caused them to go before the court. They were dealing with a consultant thing called Veritas Services.
Okay.
You got to find a way out. Veritas is like for truth. So we call and under that head, we then fought for the prison officers, and they have been vindicated, and their rights have not been restored. But those officers, not a word of apology from the minister. Not a word. I called them and I said, I will never speak to you again. This is the last time I'm going to speak to you. Because you went on the radio. I told them, so I said, you went on the radio and you lied, and you know you were lying at the time. I said that. I said, I cannot believe I was forced to speak to him subsequently because there was an issue with the president. I will not tell you what it is because I think it infringes on national security. And I actually reported it to the Prime Minister, who then asked him to speak with me. And he's afraid to talk to me because of what I said to him. But I was more interested in national security than the fool that was the minister. And I did speak. And as a matter of fact, I then drafted for him the terms of reference for the prison inquiry that they have now said is a national security issue and they will not release it. I am very offended by that because that was my inquiry. That was the inquiry that I submitted the terms of reference. I must have them in my bag somewhere here. And then they didn't have the decency to come back and say, well, Caswell, we know you were involved in this thing from the beginning. It was your idea. Could you don't have to swear me to secrecy because I've been sworn. But if you want, I would have taken it off again. And said, well, look, these are these outcomes. And we don't want to let this thing get out public because it could cause some harm to the national security of this country. And I agree that some of the things, but you can redact some. You don't have to have all. Oh yes, I have the document. I have the thing in my bag. I'm not trying to wear because there's some issues. I always got a lot of junk in this bag. That's why I'm so burdened with walking on the road. You see me with a lot of bags on my shoulder. I travel with at least 3 bags. So when people see me, these bags have documents, not money. So don't snatch them because they ain't getting money. And I can tell you why the inquiry should not have been secreted from the public. One of the, as a matter of fact, the first term of reference was the method of recruitment of prison officers, right? That can't be a national security issue. Because I'll give you an example. They advertised for officers to be promoted. The prison officers 1. You got PR1, PR2. PR2 is the lowest level officer, then you go up PR1. The fellow PR1, the guy usually wearing 3 stripes, equivalent to sergeant. There were 40 vacancies, and a number of people applied. And it turned out that the prison authority sent only 40 names to the Personnel Administration Division, as it was in those days. And of course, now you got 40 vacancies and 40 applicants with good recommendations. Where are you going to interview? But there were nearly 60 applications that the prison officers refused to send on the rest, you know. So things like that I wanted an inquiry into, because those people applied and their applications were not forwarded. So they never stood a chance to get the jobs. So if I can't blame the personal administration for this. I blame them all the time for a lot of things. And Lord knows the need beating up. But for this one, if you advertise and you have 40 vacancies and you get 40 applications, and then all 40 came with good recommendations, what are you going to do? You're going to appoint those 40. So I don't blame them for that. Unfortunately, they then discover through me and through other people that there were several more people who applied, and their applications were not forwarded. For whatever reason, the authorities at the prison didn't like them. Some of them they were not former soldiers in the Barbados Defense Force, you name it. So that cannot be a national security issue. That should be secreted away from the people in this country. The other things dealt with non-payment of overtime and allowances. Now, we have prison officers who work above and beyond the call of duty. As a matter of fact, no, they have every prison officer work not with the prisoners on the housing units. They're working 12-hour shifts. That's 4 hours more than I should be working, because when you work a 12-hour shift, you have to get ready for work in the morning to get work early. So let's say you spend 2 hours on your way getting to work, waking up, making breakfast and stuff. That is let's say 2 hours, and then after 12, you work 12 hours, and then you gotta go home. If you don't have a car, you gotta go catch a bus. So you spend most of your time either heading to work, leaving work, or at work. No time for your families and stuff. And I have been complaining about that for the longest time. And what they have done to those officers, they're not paid them, you know. Every day that those prison officers work, they work 4 hours overtime. And I've seen a document now from the acting superintendent of prisons saying that those officers should get 8 hours overtime a month.
I don't understand, but I don't understand how is the government getting away with treating the public servants in this kind of way? You know, I know I did ask the question the other night, where are the lawyers that deal with labor, you know, those that are, and you said that there might not be too many because there are not many cases, because people would not necessarily want to report it for fear of victimization. But it's really horrible to hear what is happening to our public servants. I don't know if anybody else, is alarmed. Heather, you knew about all of this here? This is alarming. And they are going along and saying nothing about it.
I knew that they work long hours, but I did not know how long, and I don't know how many days per week they work. So those are things that we would have to find out. Caswell, how many days per week do they work?
Well, I don't know, because they work shifts, and some of them might work 4 days, 5 days. But each time they report for work, they work 4 hours overtime. Overtime is paid at time and a half. So let's say you work 20 days in that month. That's 20 by 4. That's $200. 200 hours, 20 hours overtime, and you get time and a half. So that's actually 30 hours. You should be paid at least for 30 hours.
Right.
30
then
hours
by 5 days, that's 150. You know,
So
hours
it's
that you should be
150
paid for.
hours.
You should
100.
be paid 150 hours if you work 20 days at 4 hours overtime for each day, time and a half. And
Okay.
these people now are proposing, they're actually written to the authorities to say that, or they should get 8 hours a month overtime for all those months that they work starting in 2021.
Wow.
And nobody, and people taking this seriously, you know. Officers are burnt out because you cannot have some person working like that continuously and expect them to be up. And if you get sick, they deduct it from your pay
Wow.
because they get sick.
In Barbados here,
In the Barbados,
this
for
sound like
example,
slavery. So you're telling me now the new slave drivers, and we've now just
It's the
replaced.
government.
It is the government. The government is now the plantation owners. The government.
yeah.
If you're telling me that people are not being paid properly in the prison service for their overtime, we were told that there are other public servants that you've dealt with that they're not even paying them properly for sick leave. This is so. What is this? Is it slavery?
But that is rampant in the prison because I went through the thing with overdrawn salaries where they tell people that you're overdrawn. So you don't have any overdrawn salary simply because people in the prison who have no authority to determine that your sick leave will not be extended, they decide, well, your sick leave is not extended. And then decide that people owe $7,000 and $8,000 and $14,000 money back to the government. And they are so cruel. They take it out without, and they say, oh, we have the authority. They don't have the authority because we have a dispute. You are saying you owe me, and they say I don't owe you, that kind of stuff. So the only body that should be able to settle a dispute is a court. Put me before the court if you think I owe you money and I pay you. But no, they put the hand in people's money and take it out. And sometimes people don't even have money to buy lunch. Can't pay their bills. This is what they do, you know. And we have signed on conventions that say that you can't do it. The government of Barbados on the 8th of May 1967 signed the Protection of Wages Convention along with a whole set of other conventions because Baby became independent in 1966. Prior to that, England signed conventions on our behalf. So now we were a nation state and we signed off on all those conventions. But even prior to that, because the convention goes back to the 50s, 1951 or 50, I think, 48. And the government under Grantley Adams enacted legislation to mimic, for the most part, what the convention said, because we could not have signed the convention on our own. So we had the Protection of Wages Act that prevent you from paying people money in the salaries of rum shops. Unless you were working in a rum shop, your pay could not be, you could not be paid in the rum shop. That was a crime. You could not then turn and give people anything other than legal tender, because in the old days, if you had a plantation and you didn't have any, you would tell the people, I don't have any money to pay you this week, so I'm hold on these bag of cut yams. And people were paid that way. Grantley Adams outlawed that. It is a shame that his party now is doing the reverse. He might be rolling in his grave. So they have, so the Protection of Wages Act said, look, you cannot even put my money on a bank account unless we give you permission. But now the government is telling you, we want you things. The employers are saying you, in order to get this job with me, you gotta give me your bank account number. That's against the law.
So where is the voice of how do the prison officers and all of these public servants who are being mistreated, how do they voice their concern? I realize that some of them have you as their union leader. Are the others part of other unions? You understand what I'm saying, Heather? I don't understand why people would take all of this suffering sitting down like this.
You look at the unions, the major unions in Barbados. The president of the National Union of Public Workers has already declared that she wants to be the candidate for St. James North when Edmund Hinkson, demit office, as he said that he's going to demit office. He's not running again. So you really feel that a person like that will challenge the government? Wait, tell me.
Yeah.
And then Tony Moore, who's the General Secretary of the Barbados Workers Union, she is a member of Parliament. She's also one of those people who will get on the committees, the forming new committees and giving the people $3,000 a month more a salary for being the chairman of a committee. Committees that don't usually meet. And for her, bread is buttered on both sides. You really feel like she got time for workers?
Somebody asking a question here. So can the government pay you by check if that is your desire? Pay you as an independent contractor?
But you're asking two different questions. An independent contractor
right. It sounds
is
that
a
way
person who works for the government on a contractual basis. They're not employees of the government. Like, for instance, you have people who would build a building for the government. All right. And, yeah, he's an independent contractor. An independent contractor is not a fellow who cut the grass alongside the road or commit the ash. That is dishonest. They are not public workers. We have some departments that have even national insurance, but contractors working and say that when in fact National Insurance Board is the only authority in Barbados that can determine if you are a private contractor or not. Because if you have a person and you want the person to be deemed a contractor, you have to check the National Insurance Board and submit your documentation to see what the person does, and whatever else the National Insurance Board will then say, well, he's not a private contractor, he's an employee, and you got to pay a National Insurance contribution to that body. National Insurance is even doing it now.
I have a question, Caswell. Is there a demand?
Let me finish thing, because she's asking if you pay by check.
Right.
The government is trying to move away from checks, but you can only pay people in Barbados by legal tender. If you want to do anything other than that, you have to get their consent. Now, but this is the problem. You say to the government, you're a contractor, you're doing work for the government, you're fixing schools, you're doing whatever else you have to do. And you tell the government, I want my money, I don't want money transferred, I want a check. The next time work come, you don't get none.
Oh, because they're trying to move away from checks, so then they're forcing you to take a transfer.
Yes. As a matter of fact, there is there's no draft Protection of Wages Act. But the government, but I've seen the draft. The draft was sent to me for comment by the Deputy Chief Labor Officer. He sent me a copy asking me to think. I refuse to comment on it because it's the old act warm over with two minor amendments. One is that you can now pay people by what do you call it, digital currency. They're seeking to put that in the law. So you can pay people by Bitcoin or whatever else they got, or the Guatemalan dollar, whatever he's trying to get. I don't know. If that piece of legislation is passed, prior it was legal tender. It was, and with your permission, a bank draft, a check, your money order, or postal order. Now the government, they're still going to allow you to ask to have them, but they're saying that legal tender now would include digital currency. So you cannot refuse. You cannot refuse to accept. If this legislation is passed, you have to accept a digital currency. I still like to see, but I don't get a lot of money, so I still like to see Samuel Jackman Prescott. I don't get much, my money when they collect it. I don't want to see something on a computer that goes ding and money in my bank and ding is out. I prefer, because I don't trust the system around here.
Mm.
I don't
But
trust the
but you
bank.
see, it is going on the narrative, that where they're trying to go cashless. I remember going to a department and they didn't have enough change for me, and I went back another time to get it, and they said, no, we're not going to give it to you. We're not going to give you cash. So I'm here thinking it's the same idea. We are going to we will wire it to you. Give me your banking information. So they are really trying to move away from cash. I mean, you see how important this show is, because that is the piece of legislation now that they want you to comment on, where they're going to just everything is they're trying to go all digital. That's quite interesting. But somebody was asking, oh, Heather, you had a question. I'm sorry.
The young lady was asking another question. We can go ahead, let her finish. Let me find it again.
I think
Where
he
is it?
answered that about paying
That
by
was one.
check.
She asked another question. Here's the other question.
Will temperatures fall? No. The If you look in the Employment Rights Act, they have given you some of the factors that would determine if you are a private contractor or if you are an employee. It's the first schedule to the Employment Rights Act. And I'll just give you a couple. It says here, in determining whether a contract of employment exists, consideration shall be given to whether A, there's an obligation on the part of the employee to give personal and exclusive service, meaning that if you're a contractor, you can send in your staff. If you're a teacher and you work in the classroom, and if you're a private contractor, you could be able to say, well, no, sir, I'm not going this, and I'm going to send my staff to do this for me. But if you require personal exclusive service, that's one factor that will help to determine that if you are an employee or a private contractor. Then the next one is the work is done according to the instructions of the employer, and the manner in which the work is carried out is subject to the control and direction of the employer. Now, you don't go in there and teach whatever you like. You have to follow this a syllabus. You have to do whatever you have to do. You take instructions from the principal. So then again, that would suggest that you are not a private contractor. C, the work has continuity, and such continuity creates for the employee an economic dependence upon the employer. They don't bring any financial risk to the employee, meaning that you don't put out none of your money to do this job. You get paid for it. So again, that would suggest. Then it says the work is carried out within fixed hours or at a workplace or places specified or agreed by the employer. If you're a teacher, you go to a particular school. So again, that would suggest that you are an employee. Next one. The work involves integration of the employee into the organization of the business, including his subjection to its policies. All right, I think that is clear. You have to go in there and obey it. Then the next one is the employee is subject to the procedures of the business for addressing grievances and disciplinary matters. If a teacher goes there and misbehave himself, and you discipline a person, then that person is an employee. All right. The employee is in receipt of periodic remuneration payable on a stipulated basis, for example, an hourly, weekly, or monthly interval, and all such payments are subject to the statutory deductions. This one is what they're disobeying, right? But if all the others suggest an employee, just one down here doesn't change all of that. The employee is entitled to holidays with pay. That's the next one. And the employee makes no or only nominal investment in tools and equipment, meaning that you'll go in there and you don't carry on your own blackboard, you don't do them kind of things, so you're an employee. But government knows this. This act was passed in 2012 and came into force the 15th of April 2013. I think this was one of Esther Bicycle's only achievements in office for the 10 years that she was there. It is not the best piece of legislation, but it is better than what we had. And right now, I see the unions and the employers trying to change it up to undo some of the good that this act has done. Because all this act requires people to do is be fair. Give people natural justice. One time prior to this act, you can be fired for any reason or for none, as long as the employer give you your notice money and that kind of thing. Now, this act is saying that if you can fire this person, you got a reason. And if you don't have a reason, and then even if you have a reason, you have to give that person the opportunity to be heard.
You know, Mr. Franklin, I'll tell you, I am in goosebumps. I honestly, you know why, Heather? I'm saying I can't believe that this is what. Honestly, I guess I'm just naive. I didn't understand that this is a kind of injustice. These injustices that our public servants are living under. I had no idea. From the other night, I've been thinking, even this morning, just thinking about the public servants that we were talking about in terms of their sick leave, and they feel like they don't have a voice. They can't say anything now. The prison officers, I don't know what's happening with the police. Is this how we're treating each other? Heather, what you're saying?
The terms and conditions have been changed without notifying the people, asking for the input of what would work, what will not work, how it would affect them, and so on. They've gone ahead and changed the terms of work. I wanted to ask Caswell a question, and it's going back to the prison officers. Since their conditions of work with regards to overtime is so stringent, how has this affected the workers? Is there a high attrition rate? Are people going overseas to higher pastures? Or they just sitting down and taking it?
Well, they're not sitting down and taking it for the most part. But what I mean, let me put it this way: the ones who refuse to sit down and take it are the ones who are being victimized.
Okay.
All right. There are three in particular that I told the minister they want to kill them because they knew that they didn't have COVID. They knew that they were tested, and they were insisting that they must come to the prison to be tested. The authorities at the prison said, I don't want to test for anybody outside. They're going to come to the prison and get a test done. Mind you, the same doctor that was doing the test at the polyclinic was going to drive to the prison and do the test again. So it wasn't that. I suspected because these fellows were thorn on this side that they wanted to get him in the prison. And I told them, look, you do not go. I tell the minister myself, said to me, no, you can charge me for inciting mutiny because I am telling those officers, do not go to the prison. Because I feel they were being harmed. They were being harmed where they would have hurt them. Once you get them down to St. Lucie, we got about to send them down to the St. Lucie District Hospital. I said, don't go, you're left home. Because you were tested and the doctor tell you, don't leave home until the results come back. And then somebody else can overrule the doctor. No, you can't. But then the minister was on TV. The minister was on TV. It was on radio telling these people, beseeching them to come out, knowing full well. And even when they pointed out to him, up to this day, he has not said, I made a mistake. I am sorry. Apparently, sorry don't fall from people that hidden lips.
Let's clarify to the people that this is the same Wilfred Abrams here that we have on the screen here. I don't know if anybody remember when they had this search going out for these prison officers when he very well knew where they were. They were home all the time. This propaganda that they were pulling off, and he's the same one. And he's been caught in so many lies. He's been caught in so many lies.
To bear out my point, one of the officers lives in a house with his wife and mother.
Mm-hmm.
And they said that they have to bring him into quarantine. So after I made some arrangement, they said they can put him in a hotel. So they took them down to the hospital. Not near the hotel, sorry, hospital walk. And they said, we don't want the mother and the wife. She could go back home. But it was 1 o'clock in the morning during the curfew. So they had no transportation. I say, hey, I call the hotel and I tell them, look, this is Caswell Franklin. Put their room on my card. I have a pit and you can charge the room because they cannot sleep in the lobby. The government abandoned them. They brought them down to the hotel, and they said, "Oh, we don't want them." Mind you, they live in this house with this man that they claim had COVID. You know.
So they were actually criminalizing these people for nothing.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, and but to show that they didn't really want, and they knew that he didn't have COVID, but they wanted him in some sort of isolation where they can do what they had to do to him. His mother and wife, because he was there now with the shirt on his back at the hotel, I had to call the hotel that night about 2:00, and I said to them, I give them my credit card number, and I said, put their rooms on my credit card. And so the guy at the hotel knew me apparently, and he knew that I'm not a crook. So that is how the mother was able to have some place to stay that night, because they wouldn't even take her back home.
Wow. This person saying that they're lost. That they're lost in the discussion. What did he not do? What did Abrams not do?
Abrams did not tell the truth. Abrams did not rein in his officials, letting them know that what they were doing was wrong. Apparently, he sided with them. When, in fact, and I have it on good authority, that when the chief medical officer said they don't need to come to the prison, even that official at the prison decided he wanted them in the prison, and he ignored the chief medical officer, who was the authority in Barbados at the time, you know. And he said it in front of witnesses, so they can't get away from it. They were just out to get those men and they were so silly. You had people who were supposed to put us in isolation, and you put people two together, suspected of being infected, could or could not be infected. So you put the two of them, before the test come back, you put two of them in the same room. Their results come back for one fella, he wasn't infected, and the other fella infected. But by the time the results come back, the other fella in the room infected the other person. And one fella, I will call him Terry, because I'm not going to call his name. I'll call names here. Terry then was not infected at first, but they put him in the room with an infected man, and his lungs collapsed. They had to take him to St. Lucie and try to save that man's life. These people that did some horrendous things to those prison officers. They called them and tell them, come to the prison to get tested. And when they got to the prison, they locked the door behind them. And tell them they can't leave.
What?
Wow.
Yes, they did that. They locked the door behind them. And I told the three that I'm talking about, I said, look, if you go to the prison, you ain't gonna get back. They ain't gonna let you back out. They're gonna lock the door behind you. I told them so, before it happened. I said, I don't trust them. And I said, and they had a workforce up there that they work 24 hours, because you got me on duty, I can't leave.
I remember, yes, I do remember.
Those men, some of them went up there in slippers and a short pants. You got them just want to get a test, 10% know to come back. And when the fellas get behind the door to lock it, they couldn't get out.
I remember.
Oh my God.
Heather, they're in prison. You know what it is to a prison officer to be in prison? A man who turns the keys, and these guys, and all of a sudden the key turning on him.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was traumatic. Some of them ended up before psychiatrists.
Wow.
And they almost killed those men. You see that? They almost killed them. And that's what I'm saying on Saturday. I don't know if you're not moved by this, I don't know what else would move you. We're talking here about justice for workers. This is not how we had planned to start out the show. But obviously this is what is, and even with the scripture, remember the scripture I read at the beginning? For those of you who believe in the Bible, it says, Isaiah 10, doom to you who legislate evil, who make laws that make victims, laws that make misery for the poor. This is the Bible. And so when you have so many churches here, and you will see a day like Saturday come and they're like, oh, I don't protest. When you hear how people are being treated, you think that pleases God? That pleases the God that you serve? You think that injustice pleases the God that you serve? The Bible talks here in Isaiah 10 about exploiting defenseless widows. taking advantage of homeless children, laws that make misery for the poor, the pension bill, all of these things. And look at, I don't know about you, but I'm appalled. I had no idea. I can't believe that people sit down and take this kind of treatment. I can't even understand it. I can't even understand it. You know, we have no change. We have no change. Basically, what has happened is that we have changed the we've changed masters. You know,
Exactly.
we basically changed masters, right?
Still
It's
oppress people.
we are still oppressing people. It's not the plantation owners. No, it's not the white plantation owners. It's the government. The government is oppressing people, and we're sitting down and behaving like it's normal. It's not normal. It's not normal. And this is why we have to get out there and let them know enough is enough, regardless of which party is in power. We are not going to take, we're going to shake that off of our back, shake the oppressor off of our backs, right? There are 30 of them and they're doing nonsense, complete nonsense.
I'll give you an example again how they treated these prison officers. They were supposed to be isolating from each other as much as possible, right? And I usually tell people if the prime minister does something good, I say so, right? You had prison officers, female prison officers, who work 12 hours, get out of bed, and then another prison officer go sleep in the same bed.
What?
Yes, during COVID.
What? Huh?
During COVID.
Repeat that, mister. I can't understand
you have
what you
female prison
tell
officers.
me.
They don't have enough. They don't have enough accommodation for anybody up there. But this one I reported to the prime minister. You have female prison officers who would be sleeping in a bed.
Mm-hmm.
Then their time to go on duty, they would get up, and the person who was on duty going that same bed. Not disinfecting, nothing. Some of them refused to do it. Some slept in their cars and all kind of stuff. I called the prime minister, and I told her that this is what was happening. Within hours, she had cots in the prison. So I don't want to think that everything is all bad and she hasn't done anything good or anything like that. She actually then, when she found out, she was abhorred by it, and within hours, you had sanitizer things that didn't have any and all kind of stuff that these people were refusing to do. The prime minister had done just like that. So I give her that much. But it should not have happened when you have senior public officers treating other public officers like that, and then they didn't suffer any consequences for their behavior. Because
so they just corrected it. She corrected it probably because she's scared you might go to the media. They corrected it, but they didn't go in and change any policies or anything.
Well, what they didn't do is to deal with the people who were abusive. Because let me tell you something. We have some senior civil servants in Barbados that Satan will be very proud of them. They're evil. And they lie, they do everything possible, you know, and when they get caught, they close, they circle the wagons and everybody close ranks and that kind of thing, and the people at the bottom who were being mistreated, they might hear, oh yeah, well, we believe you, but nothing happens to the liar. Nothing happens to the person who did all the bad deeds. They just, because you don't seem to want to punish senior public officers. But I don't understand how we could get so cruel. And when you report them, even though the rules for dealing with grievances and stuff, you can't get a grievance come off the ground. You're supposed to report the grievance to the head of the department or the person supervisor, and then thereafter, if they don't think to the PS, and then the PS went through with it, or to your satisfaction, you go to the director general or then to the head of the civil service. But you got, and that is a 30-day process. Because each step, the first step has 3 days, then 7, and then 10, and then 10. But sometimes you can wait 2 years to get a grievance resolved. So we have a
You know,
limited.
listen, you know, Mr. Franklin, listen to all of this. What do you say to Barbadians about Saturday? And this is not, you know, we're not here because we are getting paid for this march or whatever. In fact, I'm sure we're going to once again put pockets of this march because we still need money. We still need money for those of you who are listening. But when you hear all of this or you've experienced all of this, Mr. Franklin, what do you say to the rest of Barbados about coming out on Saturday?
If they don't come out, the people will think you like it and you enjoy it, and they'll do more to you. So you have it in your hands now. You can control it now. You can say, look, thus far and no further. If you continue this behavior, we will show our displeasure. However, if you sit down and say nothing, the politicians will think that you like it. You won't hear them boasting and saying, oh, just a few people out there marching. Remember? Just a few people protesting. They're not saying what they were doing is wrong, you know. They're saying, oh, but the body ain't paying them the money, so we can continue doing wrong. So you have to show them that you don't want them to continue doing wrong in your name and to you. Because when the government does something, they're doing it in your name, you know. And not only they're doing it in your name, no, but they're doing it to you. So you have the opportunity to come out on Saturday, the 16th, and speak with your feet. Speak with your presence. Let the people see that you have given them the vote. Are you watching them? Actually, you put them in the scales and found them wanting. And you should let them know that you cannot be doing this in my name. I don't want to be associated with a government that treats people the way this government is treating people. And they're doing it. They're doing it for money from the international community because they are asking you to take all these strictures because international agencies want to use us as guinea pigs. Don't forget the computer test and all that stuff. That wasn't any computer test. That was to see how many of our young children that they can turn into LGBT. That's all that was about, you know. And you don't think that, I don't think Barbadians are interested in that. At least the majority of us aren't. But they want to do it to get money from the international community because the international community is pushing this thing. What they don't realize is that the international community wants to destroy us. Because if you stress on this LGBT nonsense, same-sex couples do not breed. So if you have a significant portion of your population not breeding, your population will decline. They don't want people that look like us in the world, you know, they want to get rid of us. And we are cooperating with our own demise, our own destruction. And the government is held back doing the international community's bidding. You gotta stop them. And you can stop them by standing up and telling the government by your numbers, we are not going to be part of that. So that is what we want to see you on the road on Saturday. We not only put in the national insurance, because the national insurance affects every working person in Barbados. Mind you, the government has done a dirty on the people who pay national insurance, and they are now asking us to pay for people who didn't contribute to national insurance. So you are actually paying a part of your contributions to pay people who did not pay. That if government wants to give people income or to assist them, it should come from the government and not from a pension fund created by the workers for the workers. This is not, the national insurance is not welfare. But the Prime Minister went and actually raised, not we have promised people that they can raise the non-contributory pension. The non-contributory pension is something the welfare department used to pay one time. And all of a sudden, no, there's no national insurance. And you have to pay of that 11%, 2% of that 11%, goes to non-contributory pension. It is unfair to the people in this country.
Yeah,
It's unfair
it's
to the people who work.
it's once again, it's the oppression, it's the oppression of the poor, that is at work. The oppression of the poor, it's a constant. And I saw where, we're going to hope we have time to look at that a little later, where the minister that's, well, supposed to be dealing with crime, the minister that, or I don't know what you call him, Corey, talking about, giving all kind of excuses about controlling crime, etc., and not realizing the people need jobs. But we're gonna look at that. Someone says here, no man is entitled to the blessings of freedom unless he be vigilant in its preservation. I don't know if this is this person's quote or whoever it is, but this is very deep. No man is entitled to the blessings of freedom unless he be vigilant in its preservation. And that's what this march is about, guys. This march is about preserving freedom, democracy in this country. And everybody should be part of that. This person is saying, Mrs. Weeks, none of the lawgivers in the Bible, because I quoted from the Bible, shall come to our assistance. We, the people, have to act. Sorry, God is not coming either. So who shall force this upon those the people elect? Now, let me be clear. I'm not saying that God is coming, and I'm not saying that any lawgiver in the Bible shall come to our assistance. What I was doing is making reference to the Bible for those persons who are watching who are of the Christian belief, Christian faith. Just to say to them, Colin, that even the Bible is against any form of oppression. Okay? Even the very Bible is against any form of, the oppression of people, and to encourage the church to come out, because the injustice. I mean, God is not pleased with this kind of injustice when the workers are being treated like this. So that's really what I'm saying, and that's why I'm asking the church to come out. The church is a large number. It's a large number. The church can come out, right? Someone else here is saying they were made to fill out a vendor's license while employed at government agency, and received 3 contact renewals forms hand delivered, which was to alert us we were part of the ash contact, and we were hired to work on the Scotland District project. When I questioned the act, I was told I can only be part of the establishment if I got sworn in by the prime leader of the country. But our payment was in conjunction with the ASH program. With the ASH program workers, if we got paid, they didn't. I don't understand all that is saying. I don't know if you can read it. I can put it on the screen because it's so big. The comment is really big. I'm sorry, Barnes. I'm trying to read your comment, but it's really big. You can send it to me at 236-7000. You can WhatsApp me, and I'll be able to read it. Take your time and write it. Yeah.
Marcia?
So 236-7000. Yes. A quick comment. Before Vincent Smith comes on. Yes, go ahead.
So Mr. Roach, who said that God is not coming to help us, that could never be true. God has provided a means through his spirit to come to help us. For one thing, he has provided an avenue for all of us to come together, to exchange our views, to share and to educate the people on how we can come together to fight the monstrosity in the parliament. We have Caswell here, we have Marcia, we have Mr. Smith, we have Kimar,
Vincent
we have Maxine McLean, we had Lynette Eastman and myself. And so far from day one, this program has been right on track in providing a way for people to come together to fight what is happening in Parliament. So I definitely do not agree with what you said.
Heather, let me support that by giving you a story.
Yeah.
You know, I recently won a case where a lady who was 75 years old got dismissed from work by 1 day's notice after 18 years. And I took it before the tribunal because I don't care how old you are, you have to treat people with respect. And she got some damages as a result because people thought because she was over 67 that they can treat her the way they like. And
Mm.
another guy came to me and he was treated similarly after working for a lot of years for this company. And he said to me, well, I explained what the process is and what we're going to do. Two cases were going on at the same time. And he said to me, he has to discuss it with his wife. And he will come back to me and decide what he's going to do because the wife will not share make the decisions together. So he came back to me and he said, he discussed it with the wife. And she said, well, the company was good to you all these years. And, you know, the Lord will provide. I said, but you don't understand, you know. The Lord provided me, you don't take me? You know? You see, he didn't realize that. I said, look, the Lord provided me. He ended up not getting $300,000 in damages because the wife said to him that the Lord will provide. I said to him, but the Lord have provided me, and you rejected the Lord saying, you know.
Mm.
So Heather, you're
Mm.
quite right. The
Yep.
Lord sent people to help others, and I believe that that is my role.
Yes, he does.
Yes. Yes, I believe so too. I really believe so too. And we have Mr. Vincent Smith here with us, and he's from the church. And you would have heard everybody calling on the church to come out. It's a large block, and we're hearing, Mrs. Smith, we're hearing of the injustices that's happening to a lot of workers. And I know that it must hurt God's heart. I don't know if you were listening to some of those things. I know sometimes as a church, and I'm from the church, so I'm gonna talk about myself tonight. I'm not beating on the church. Sometimes we are only focused on those issues that we think that they are issues of morality, but issues of injustice. We sometimes, and I'm using we because I'm part of it, we sometimes stay away. And listening to Caswell, honestly, Monday and Tuesday, it bothered my heart to hear how people are being treated. And today, a sister from the church sent me the scripture. I think because you watched the program in Isaiah 10 about the injustices, God being angry about how people were treated. So I'm very, very happy to know that you are on tonight hearing all of this, and you are on to talk specifically about the child protection bill. And
Mhm.
but I'm happy, saying all of that to say I'm happy you're here to hear as well some of the other issues.
Yeah, of course. Good
Good
night to
night.
everyone.
Good
Um,
night.
Thank you for having me a second time. Yeah, I just want to share a few more items on the child protection bill with you. And I think I call these ones loopholes because they're not very straightforward. But I think because judges are allowed to interpret the law, um, it's the interpretation here that is tricky. And so let's look at how this could be interpreted. So the parts of the bill that I'm going to refer to. One part of the bill, um, this can be exploited primarily by persons transgender in Barbados, which is a very small minority of persons, very, very, very small percentage of persons in Barbados. And this part of the bill can be exploited by them or their legal um, the attorneys. But it would criminalize at the same time the vast majority of Barbadian people and parents who don't believe a man can become a woman. So let's look at that part of the bill. The bill tells us of the reasons a child may be removed from its parent, right? So this is about taking a child away from the parent, and there's a list of reasons, and they all sound fine. They're great, and we can probably imagine that, if these do happen, we would like some type of protection um, for the children, even from their parents. But in Section 5, um, subsection 1, it says that a child is in need of care and protection where the child, and it lists some parts, and I'll read one particular part, where a child suffers from a mental condition that requires treatment. And the parent does not or refuses to obtain treatment. Again, you ask, well, so what's wrong with that? If a parent doesn't give a child a child who's mentally ill treatment, then that, by all means, do something to protect the child. But what I want to draw your attention to is that this mental condition could mean several types of mental condition. And gender dysphoria is a mental condition, you see? So it is someone who believes that they are of the opposite gender, or they were born in the wrong body, or the opposite sex. And we know that today children are being taught and groomed to say that they are of another gender or another sex, and so on. So if you're a child, let me give you an example of what this could look like. When your child comes home, your little boy child comes home, and he says, "Mommy" or "Daddy, I am a girl," that is gender dysphoria, right? Don't mind in the American Psychological Manual where it says that, oh, they must have this occurring or this persistent dislike with the body that they're in. No, you don't have to wait. If the child says so, it is so. And if the child is taken to the psychologist or the psychiatrist, they have to agree with the child. They will not disagree, because that would be called transphobia. And then they can be fined or arrested for not adhering to this belief that the child has. So in other words, as long as a person says they're so, there's no opine from anyone else, any professional, no scientist, no doctor, no expert can disagree with a child or an adult that say they are this way. So I can say so tonight, and then in 2 minutes later, I can come and tell you all I'm a woman, and you all have to accept that. So when your child comes home and says so, the child is automatically branded or labeled as a gender dysphoric child. So according to the bill, a parent who refuses to obtain or does not obtain treatment for the child will suffer certain consequences. And we look at those later. The list would be, you can be fined up to $100,000. I think it's $100,000 or 10 years in prison, or the child can be removed from you. All right. This is the penalties, which I think are very, very stringent penalties for parents who may, and not just take a child for mental condition, but I don't know, lash a child, that could fall under abuse. And there are different areas that they list. But here's some very, very stringent penalties for parents who do not adhere to these things. And bear in mind that if you do not take your child, for example, for this gender care, and we look at what this so-called transgender treatment or affirming care is, but if you don't take your child and they remove the child from you, or they put you in prison, let's say for 10 years, and you're the only mother of this child, there's not a family or whatever, then the child is 5. By 15, you come out, the child doesn't know you or doesn't really care about you. you have no influence or impact on this child's life. The child probably go through foster home to other foster home, and the child is exposed to ridicule and shame and everything, don't have any parents and all that. So which is worse, right? And I think that is these penalties are very, 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 very harsh for these particular things. I don't know why it seems to me that they're criminalizing parents for exercising their right or not doing they're performing their rights perfectly, right? So now consider what gender affirming care
I want to ask you a question.
is. So do you suppose to go ahead?
Now let's say you are a little boy who decides that I'm a girl, and the parents think that is nonsense, so don't get you treated. Will the government now do like Canada and provide that treatment for you?
No, it doesn't say. I don't think it says that they will provide the treatment, but they say definitely they will remove the child, right? It poses a condition now for the director of the child services here in Barbados now to be able to remove that child from you. Now, here's the thing. I don't know if government is going to take on the responsibility of taking it further and ensuring that, but it implies that they will have to, because according to the bill, if someone observes or is a witness, which means now the child services director is now a witness, and they don't report it, they can also be locked up and jailed and fined and so on. But it means that if the parent is being fined or the child is removed from the parent for not adhering to this section of the bill, it means now whoever is in care of that child is now responsible for fulfilling those needs. Otherwise, now they'll be just as guilty because it says the parent or any adult in charge of the care of the child. Yeah, go ahead.
Let's say you're a 5-year-old, 10-year-old, whatever, and you decide you're a girl, and they'll give you the treatment. That means they can lob off your little penis and throw it in the stuff. What happens when you tell them a boy? Again, you can't go back in the stuff for it. These people are mutilating, are proposing to mutilate our children, and I've seen young people on YouTube, because I don't watch TV, claiming that they went through this process and now they are so sorry but they can't undo it because the organs have been
detransitioning.
I've seen several videos like that, and people testifying before some state houses in the United States, telling people, and why are we going down that road when people who went through it saying this thing is bad for us? So what makes this government believe that people who went through it was bad for them, but it can be good for Barbados?
Well, you see, it doesn't come right out and say that, and that's why I call it a loophole, because it puts the Barbadian parents in trouble if that ever comes up. They can actually be dealt with or criminalized if this ever comes up. So there must be some way to fix this loophole to avoid parents from being criminalized for not taking their children for this so-called gender care.
The loophole. Okay, go ahead, Kimar. Sorry, go ahead. Welcome. Good night, Kimar. Go ahead.
Thank you for having me. Good evening to everybody. I just wanted to
Good to have you.
Ask a question in regards to the Child Protection Bill. But first, I just want to observe that the Child Protection Bill is initiated and sponsored by the IDB, much like the senior computer science guys. So we are seeing financial institutions, these large financial institutions that we borrow money from, sponsoring legislation like this. Right? So the fact that we borrow the money from these international players, then they could dictate to us what to teach our children. Then they could dictate to us what health services or whatever they could be able to access, whatever. Makes it harder for the parents to have any say over the rights of a child. And if you look at the two age groups that these persons are targeting, they're targeting the elderly and they're targeting the children. right? So why would you have to spend your time trying to brainwash children into having transgender rights and LGBT rights? The first couple of years are the most formative for young people. And if you could have a society, if you teach the children from now the LGBT agenda, in 20 years, when they're able-bodied men and women, they will have that full LGBT education, and you will have a society now filled with the LGBT agenda. Depopulation, as Caswell said, the population will not be breeding. A lot of the traditional heterosexual services that the state had to provide to those will be out, and you be having a new type of governance where you have married parents, two men adopting girl children. You have two married women adopting children living in households. By that time, they may have the digital ID fully implemented. So if you do not follow the agenda, they may have enough social control over the population that they may deny you social services and deny you public services, like what's happening right now in the world in some countries. So this entire agenda being sponsored by this the international community and funding these bills and seeking out, and this is what I tell you about leadership of a country. You are seeking out and putting ministers in place who have a liking for these things, seeking out leadership who have tolerance for this type of thing, that when they do bring it forward because they took the money, you have leaders that will say yes, yes, come, we can put it in the schools. Much like how the minister of education allowed it to put it in the school, and if not for one or two parents speaking out, we would have never heard anything about it. Any minister that was worth their salt would have not allowed that to happen. And on top of the fact that they said that the Ministry of Education gave that financial institution no permission whatsoever to implement the test, but an institution which is not even a sovereign institution to Barbados can overpower the Ministry of Education to go into schools that they got control over. So who's really running the country? The Ministry of Education as it relates to the children, or the financial institution? Why would the financial institution have more say than the ministry? It's because we took their money and we have to follow their agenda. It's part of the if you're going to read the script, it's right up there in the script. All the information is out there for the public to go and see that when you take money from these type of institutions, then they want to bring down their ridiculous lifestyles to teach to our children. They say, just plant the seed now, and in 20 years, Barbados will be unrecognizable.
Wow. Wow. Very profound, very profound, there. And I think we just want to, as Mr. Smith says, when you read the bill on the face of it, you're not going to see that in there. But because we've also heard from the lawyer, Davida Maynard, and here is Mr. Smith confirming it. Caswell also read from the bill the last, I think it was last week as well. And we see how wide it is, Mr. Smith, how wide it is, that it encompasses. They're talking about mental health, they said, or I can't remember the mental health. So right now, mental conditions. So conditions it's pluralized. So we don't know how wide it is, and this is what the call is for. That the bill needs to be more specific. We want to know clearly that this is not going to be part of the mental condition. So when you get the bill, when you go ahead and you read it, you're going to say, but I don't see what Mr. Smith is saying in the bill, but really read it. And you will see that any lawyer will know that, oh, this would be a good one because I could argue away anything, right, Mr. Smith? That's what you're saying?
It's left into the interpretation of the judge and how they will determine it. Yes, and the lawyer will point out that this is what he believes it says, and it would allow for children who have this mental condition to get so-called gender therapy, which is, as Caswell said, would be the recastration drugs, puberty blockers, stop the children from going through puberty and create a false puberty, and then lead them fast-tracked into surgery, which is the cutting off of the penis and the vagina, sewing up the vagina and cutting off the breasts and so on. So yeah, so that's the problem with that. And you can add another section of the same bill that refers to serious injury. Serious injury to the child. And according to section 28, subsection C, removal of the child from the parents where necessary to protect the child from the risk of serious harm or danger. Staying with the same transgender child, they are trained or coached by their teachers, the community, to say, if we do not get these drugs, if we do not, and they blackmail their parents and they blackmail the therapists to give them drugs. They threaten suicide, and you hear that, oh, there's suicidal ideation among the transgenders more because they're trained to say that. They're told to say that, right? Little children don't just come out the blue and say they'll commit suicide if they don't get a sweetie or if they don't get a drug or whatever. They'll cry, or fight you or whatever.
So we have doctors.
Go ahead.
So we have doctors in Barbados willing to perform surgery, this gender mutilation surgery on children without the permission of parents. We have doctors in Barbados with a conscience willing to do something like that.
Oh, I really can't speak to that. I can't speak for them. The thing is, I made a recommendation to the committee, the bill committee, and asked them to consider making it an offense. It would be a felony, or however you want to put it, for a doctor to prescribe puberty blockers or hormones to a minor, or to perform sexual reassignment surgery on a minor under the age of 18 for the purpose of gender affirming care. So anybody that does that to a minor should be locked up, right? So for me, this is the one way to solve this issue if it comes up. And that it will not be a criminal offense to force it will be a criminal offense to force a child to undergo this gender affirming care. And a child or minor cannot approve or give consent to just gender affirming care. In other words, to surgery, to the mutilation of their body, castration of body parts, and puberty blockers. All of these are very harmful and irreversible. And these are lifelong changing things that a child cannot make these kind of decisions, lifelong changing decisions about their lives. So I'm proposing to the government that somewhere in the bill to protect the children from this very perversive and cruel transgenderism.
But Mr. Smith, on the issue of morality, no.
Please call me Vincent, folks. Don't worry about it.
Vincent, on the issue of morality, no. This might sound highly controversial, but the same way how the parliamentarians volunteered to go and take the jobs during COVID, and they were on TV taking pictures and taking videos, it's my firm opinion that they should volunteer their children first to go under something like this if they want to bring it to the children of Barbados.
Very few of them got children.
Well, I just said it's pretty controversial, but it would make sense if this is the road they're going down, then you should lead by example. Then but back to what what Vincent is saying. Guys, this is why we have been going on the streets. Even before the NIS marches, we were on the streets. We've been writing in the papers and all of that, because we're not crazy. We're not crazy people, but we are reading the bill and we are seeing what the possibilities could be. We're seeing what's happening in California. etc. And so this is why we've included it in this March. And I am saying, guys, the same way how we kicked up a fuss about Independence Day. Listen, remember when they were going to, and everybody everybody was up in arms about this. This is something that will change our society, change who we are. This is something that totally changed the society, whether you're Christian or Muslim or whatever. And this is why we're saying to you, come out, make a placard about it, put a t-shirt together on Saturday. Don't believe what they're saying, that we're just people trying to make trouble. Do you hear what Vincent is saying tonight? The possibilities. Come out, invite 5 persons, bring out the entire family, bring the children, bring the teenagers, bring out bring everybody. Come out, bring out the church. Bring out the church. We need the churches out. If you go to a church, call your pastor. We have to take back our country. I don't want to take more of Vincent's time, but my heart is so full. Go ahead, Heather, and then back to Vincent, because we only have 5 more minutes in this section. Go ahead.
Transgenderism it's being expressed so boldly here in the US. People, from time to time, people say that it must be something in the water. I mean, it has reached a stage where there is no turning back. You see girls in the subway kissing one another and making out, and it is as though this thing is normal. So can you imagine this happening in little Barbados? Every way you turn, it's woman with woman and man with man, and normal couples become like a thing of the past. This is where we are headed. And I want to ask Vincent, if the law is so clear if it is so clear on gender change, right? When does the state also state what should happen if persons may want to have the situation that they or the changes made to their body reverse? Since we're going from one end of the spectrum to the next, and the state approves that, has it included a mechanism for persons to revert?
No, it doesn't address that at all. But the thing is, the detransitioning, as you're referring to, is very, very common. It's very real. The people who go through detransitioning, who realize that they made a mistake, they were not born in the wrong body, they were just confused, they had body dysmorphia, or they had some other mental condition, but other persons confuse them and make them believe that they're transgender just because they were different and that sort of thing. And these people have when you claim you're a transgender, you get the community around you, you get the law around you. California forced the insurance companies recently to pay for all transgender bills, surgery and so on, because it was too costly for them to do it individually. So the California forced the insurance companies to pay for these bills. So you've got this whole support mechanism and system around you when you claim you're transgender, you want to go that route. From the time you say you made a mistake, they wipe you off, you get no support, you're castigated, you're thrown out the community, nobody speaks to you, you can't get any legal recourse or anything like that. However, there are a couple of people who have sued in England and sued the health services and so on, and persons who push them down that road, where they say, look, I was too young to make this decision as a minor, and then no adult should have put me into this. I should have been treated with proper psychiatric or psychological care and attention. You should have looked at it first, from those angles, but yet the whole system mechanism forces people, children, from as soon as they say that, to fast track them, and therefore they sue in England, and they're one or two other people are beginning to sue, and I think that's what you need to do to keep these people off your back, and to protect the elder. But there's no hope really otherwise. There's no laws to offer or support for those persons who want to detransition.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah. You're so correct. You're so correct. And go ahead, Mr. Franklin. Go ahead.
Vincent was saying that something to the fact that people will say, well, you don't see it in the bill, and I want to strengthen what he is saying so that he can say, you remember some weeks ago, a moderator on the radio say, oh, the 68 is not in the national insurance bill either, or that there was nowhere in the bill that says that the minister will take over control of the national insurance fund. So this is a pattern. They hide the things in the legislation. They hide it in plain sight. But you have to do interpretation. They're not telling you. So this is nothing new. This is the deception that the government has been practicing against its own people. Ain't nothing new.
Yeah.
They did it to us because we only found out after careful reading of the national insurance bill that they can take away the power from the board to invest the fund, and that's going to go in the hands of the state, the state with our budget minister of finance. You know what I mean? So just don't be disheartened. Don't avoid coming and try to pull it. They're doing it all the time. This is part of their MO, their modus operandi. They do it.
Yes.
Hoping that people wouldn't see it.
I think
Thank you.
gone are, if I may interrupt, Marcia, gone are the days where we sit back and trust our ministers to lead, because we're too busy. We're raising a family, we're going to work, we're doing extracurricular stuff, we're enjoying our lives. We don't have time to now supervise every day our leaders or ministers, and we used to just put them there and leave them and hope that they will do a good job. But that is the thing of the past. Almost everything they bring up now, we have to now sit down and take the time to scrutinize. And a lot of us don't have that patience. A lot of us really don't want to care that much to do that. But we realize the problem of not being vigilant and diligent and paying close attention to what is being spoken and what is being written. And we're going to be just surprised as things subtly are inserted into our lives. And then suddenly you see it, but it's too late because it's already law or something like that. So gone are those days. We have to pay attention to what our ministers are doing today.
Yeah, you are so correct. And, as someone has said, thank you, Mr. Vincent. You said, just call you Vincent, but thank you, Vincent, for taking the time, to go through. We thank also Davido, who will be back here on Friday again, because I think this program is about education, and we were so educated by Mr. Franklin. So now that you've come with this, we can totally understand it, because he's been showing us, all these discrepancies and all, how they put things together and seemingly to deceive people, and what comment that I want to make here, guys, is that the prime minister, after we had several of the children's marches and so on, and she was away again, and when she came back, she said, oh, there'll be no transgender education in Barbados. But when that comment is, it's very hard to believe that. And let me tell you why it's hard to believe. It's not judging the prime minister. It's why it's hard to believe. Because when you heard, I don't know if you heard this week, that, thank you, Dave, thank you so much. This is what I was going to make reference to. The World Economic Forum, they have partnered with the LGBTI, so many letters. I know the PGLE, I don't know, they're just snatching up everything. But they have, the WEF is partnered with them. The UN is pushing that. You understand what I mean? The what's the one for children? UNICEF is pushing that. They are lobbying CARICOM. We have the documents where CARICOM has been lobbied to include this into the education system. So to say something like that is very difficult for us to believe the prime minister, who, I mean, there's so many other areas where we were told one thing and then it became something else. And now we're supposed to believe you with a bill that is so wide, all of these terms just so open and wide. We don't know what can be inserted. Are we supposed to believe you? And this is why we need to put pressure on the government of Barbados. It has nothing to do with whether you like the prime minister or you don't like the prime minister. This is not what this is about. It's not about whether you like this party or you don't like the other party or whatever the case is. Get out on the street, church people, Muslims, Hindus, agnostics, whatever you call yourself, get out on the street. This is our Barbados. This is bigger than, to say, well, it's against God's law. Yes, it's against God's law, but it's going to change our society. This is so very, very important that we come out. Yes, we started with the justice for workers, and now we're talking about the child protection bill. And we want
I wanted, yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
I just want to close off
Yes.
and leave you with this. I agree with you. Political opposition is a good thing. It's not a bad thing. And it's good for democracy, right? It helps to ensure that the government is held accountable to the people and that the people have choices and so on. So opposition is critical to democracy, right? What came to mind as you were speaking, I think sometimes the government cause people to have suspicions about them, and justifiable suspicions, they might say conspiracy theories or whatever, but it is brought on by the same government and not by the people themselves. And a case in point is the bathroom sign, the alleged bathroom sign, where there was a picture being circulated before the minister was a representative from the ministry was on television. There was a sign, and people were claiming that this sign exists. And you could see clearly on the sign, it was a blue sign, and it had a wheelchair, a male, a female, which means that both sexes can use the bathroom, and a wheelchair user can also access the same bathroom. And then in the corner, it had the stars and the letters EU, which means this is an official thing sponsored by the European Union. The problem with that, however, is that it was on a green door, and the door did not show the building. It doesn't say this is airport, this is my backyard, or whatever. So that was circulating. The lady went on television from the Ministry of Education, and she never once spoke about the sign on the back door from the clip that you will see on the video. She never once spoke about that, but all the while she spoke about the government policy. Government does not have a policy on transgenderism and so on and so on. But she never denied that there was a sign on the back door. She's at the school. The principal never spoke about the sign on the back door either. She spoke about the fact that signs were given, there were gifts, and that they were there to help with people, from different languages to be able to read. But no one ever at that moment in front of the camera denied that a sign was on the door. Now, if you wanted to go and disprove and dismantle a conspiracy theory or dismantle disinformation, right, and disprove it with a camera, when you show the bathroom door has no such sign on it. Mm-hmm. But in the video, they showed every other door, the principal office, the library, and everything else, and they never showed the bathroom door, right? So they omitted showing the bathroom door. They left out the evidence that they were going there to disprove or to prove, right? So now you come away, and then the next day, so in other words, you fail to disprove the allegations. So the allegations remain. Right? and therefore all it did is create more suspicion about the government. And then the next day, the government produced a picture of a sign on a green door that looked exactly like the previous sign, but it did not have the two sexes this time. And that came out was supposed to be proof that the bathroom door, I mean, again, it did not have anything linking it to the school. That could have been a back door outside government. It could have been anywhere, right? So that's not really proof that the bathroom door did not have one. So all that happened is that government left people in this position of suspicion against what really went on, because they never ever disproved what was alleged.
Yeah, and
So
I agree with you. And it's not that you're saying that the sign was there, but what happens is that when they do stuff like that, then it causes people to be suspicious. So nobody on this program is trying to say that they had transgender signs on the bathroom. What Vincent is saying is that they did not disprove it,
No,
and that is the problem right there. Yes, go ahead.
Speak for yourself. Speak for yourself. They had it. Trust me, they had it designed, and I can tell you why. Because when I went to primary school, they had a sign mark. So they stopped sign up back in the 60s. I'm talking about. We know to make a sign that says bathroom. You really feel to get one from the EU? You really feel all the people who can paint and who can draw and who can write that we got to get a sign from the EU? No, this was the conditioning that they want for us. The sign was there, and that is why they cannot show it, because they cannot go in the bathroom and say, well, look, these people are lying. Here's our door. Look at that. They didn't do that. It was there. Marcy, but before I think about, you were saying just now that the Prime Minister has said that there will be no LGBT, whatever it is, I know, trans, what she said? Education in Barbados, transgender education, whatever it is. Marcia, read section 3(1)(a) of the Child Protection Act. It says, the purpose of this act shall be to A, ensure compliance with United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, 2, Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and 3, all other international instruments to which Barbados is a party, with special regard to those which afford a child the necessary protection and assistance so that he can assume his eventual responsibility within the community and for the full and harmonious development of his personality, and to grow up in a family environment imbued with happiness, love, and understanding. This 3 is gobbledygook. Pure gobbledygook. It doesn't say that you're going to train the children in that way. But if you sign on to these international agreements, you can obey them.
Because you're saying, let's be clear. So you're saying that the section 3A, is it A? Section 3A?
Did I get 3(1)(a) of the Act? 1(a).
Section 3(1)(a). For those of you who want to go and find the child protection bill, that it says that they're going to be abiding by the international standards and international laws in a nutshell.
Barbados is a party, and we're going to sign off on everything. So next thing you know, like Kimar was saying earlier, they're going to sign on these things, and they can't get away from it now, So we will get that LGBT nonsense where men come dressed in dresses and G-string things out there reading in front of their children, and that you see it. And they said that is human right.
Right, we're trying to find it so you can see. I want you to see it. Right, it says here, ensure compliance with the United Nations Conventions on the Rights of the Child, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and all other international instruments to which Barbados is a party. And don't forget that Kimar just told us tonight that he was saying that the child protection bill, he can correct me if I'm wrong, was it is sponsored by an international agency, Kimar? Is that what you're saying?
I think he said
Yeah,
the
they have direct input into the structure of the bill. Um, if you read some of these debt manuals for countries, you will
Oh,
see, right. You will see specifically they're speaking to education reform and the implementation of child rights as one of the mandates of education reform for when countries borrow from them. That's the IADB, the World Bank, the IMF, the European Union, any institution in the West really that is part of the new neoliberal economic order. Um, these countries push that as part of their
yes.
package or packages.
So these international, all of that they're the internet, all of these entities, read 31A, would include all of that, and this is why we cannot trust the government, because they're the same ones we're going to transition right now into the IDs. They have told us so many. I don't. Should I say lies? It's so bad to say lies,
Yeah,
but
but go.
it's so many lies. It's just wrong, because we cannot trust them, because they've signed on to all of these things. Barbados, come out and put pressure on them. Put pressure on them, people. Enough is enough. Put pressure on them. The numbers must speak on Saturday. Put the pressure on them. Put the pressure on them. Everybody come out. Make a sign and come out. We are not stupid. We have been tricked so many times. How many times we're going to allow them to trick us? Okay, so this is it, right? Right.
Marcia,
Yes, go
I,
ahead.
wa- I wanted to read some quotes that would directly play back everything we're discussing here, um, and give the audience an understanding um, as to the new era that we are in. This thing about globalization, this thing about new world order, this thing about new economic orders. Um, the United Nations and their new special development goals that Barbados signed on to, and we continuously push it. Say that we want to be world class by 2030, and it makes something like this that plans are afoot to establish a new economic order, and it will be a global economic system of political, economic, and judicial control aimed at making the world and I say this in quotes, safer, better place in which to live. That unknown and unnoticed by the vast majority of the people, the world is moving towards a global political system of international control of your everyday lives, and our world will be faced with significant problems. And they listed some of the problems, and y'all can tell me if these problems sound familiar, and if the language that's being used in these people in their books, if it doesn't sound familiar to us here in Barbados. The rapid rise in the level of crime, violence, and general lawlessness throughout a country and in major cities around every country. The ongoing problems between capital and labor unions, big businesses, and their employees. Problems plaguing the world economies, recession, inflation, third world poverty, debt, international trafficking of illegal drugs, international trafficking of humans,
Mm,
organ harvesting, international terrorism, the threat of water and food shortages as the world population increases, the global greenhouse effect caused by industrial production of oil and gases, which will cause global temperatures to rise, producing and melting the ice caps, and therefore a rising ocean tides, causing more hurricanes, tsunamis, flooding, severe heat waves, and rainfall, sporadic rainfall. new patterns of infectious diseases, right? Increasing levels of environmental production in terms of nuclear and domestic waste. And it all at the last point it said fanatical cult leaders that mislead and delude and destroy the country and the people in its country, right? And it said that that is the way the world is going to turn, and they will come up with this new so-called plan where the world will accept more severe civil liberties, more severe punishments as a means to fix the world's problem. And they will use any emergency or any slogan or whatever to come in and take away all of the civil rights
Wow.
of the population, right? And that include shortening the lifespan of the elderly. That includes brainwashing of children to encourage them to be destructive. That includes removing the religious institutions because religious institutions push families. Christians push families. The Muslims push families. The Rastas push families. It's only the LGBT that's pushing man and man and woman and woman. And that is the only, I call it a religion, but that's the only set or path that does not push procreation in the family, which means by nature, that's destruction in the eyes of God and destruction in the eyes of any other religious institution. So look at Barbados. We had a systematic dismantling of the church institution now that has no voice. That is not coincidental. That is part of these things that we're speaking of in terms of the Child Protection Bill, where institutions that push protection of children, the Bible speaks very in favor, and so you have to destroy those institutions, muzzle them, stop them from representing for these vulnerable groups. Whenever the chance comes, that could come by state sponsorship of your activities. That could come with pulling the tax lever on you if you speak out. That could come with political victimization. That could come with any other abuse a government could put on, I would say, religious or quasi-religious institutions when they attempt to defend the institution of a family. So in this new modern day world, or this new economic world order or whatever, it says that you will see a joining of the state and the church, where the church is like the state and the state is like the church, both trying to be secular and religious at the same time.
That is so true.
Right?
That is so true.
They're actually starting at St. George Parish Church.
I don't know if everybody will get that one, but
could you explain, Caswell? I'm lost.
No. He said that the church and the state now joining up and stuff, and you're going to not be able to separate them. But they're starting that process at St. George Parish Church. We have a senator who is a priest at St. George Parish Church. The government has co-opted him to some of their committees and put him on board and put him on these boards, and even with the Constitution, he was one of the people who was in favor of the taking God out of the Constitution and saying Creator, that kind of stuff. Remember that? I was going to tell you, it started at St. George Parish Church.
Yep, and he's been given a big voice in the country, and a lot of people quote him. You see, and they know what they're doing, as somebody said, wolves in sheep clothing. Right, they will be revealed in real. Yeah, but back to Kimar. So Kimar, continue there. This it's good to put it in a context, Kimar, go ahead. Is he hearing me? Kimar, can you hear me?
Marriage between the church.
Okay,
yes, I can hear you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So part of the marriage between the church and the state, and not just the Christian church, but I could give you more Hindus, more Muslims, any religious type institution that has a pro-family agenda. The incorporating of its leaders into the government's agenda will essentially silence the voices of these people, and they will can't speak out. So right now, where the government is seeking to pass a transgender bill, which we know will bring, it can bring procreation, it can bring family, but still these institutions don't have a voice. The government can push forward in implementing the same digital IDs, which we know governments around the world have been using them for state surveillance to surveil and spy on its population and to gather information in the name of quote unquote big data.
Mm-hmm.
That is something that the church as an institution should say something about. The use of tyranny as a government to penetrate into or to destroy the civil liberties that were given to us via our traditional constitutions. Governments now are destroying constitutions all around the world. Look at Barbados. Our independence constitution gave us specific access to specific goods and services at a heavily subsidized rate: healthcare, education, access to proper roads, access to anything you wanted. The government of Barbados provided it traditionally in our independence years. Now the government has locked into the international community. They're following what we are saying lockstep, almost like word for word from the handbook that these so-called oppressors put out. Destroy a country's constitution, crush the people's crush the people's civil liberties,
Mm-hmm.
destroy religious institutions to stop the people from being morally intact. Because the more immoral a country is, it seems to be more economically viable for them,
Right.
right? Lick out those two tenets, and to get that complete, you have to target the elderly in terms of killing off the elderly, kill off the wisdom in the country, and kill off the persons who would have had a more philosophical upbringing in the more, I'd say, with the 50s, 60s, 70s. Get rid of them out of the country and target the youth, the young, the kids to brainwash them so that the degradation of society happens, as I said, within a 20-year span and basically plunge the country into object destruction. There are examples of this across the world. There are so many examples that we can look at. And if you look at it, you had the Second World War, you had the bombing of the Pearl Harbor, you had so many different quote unquote wars. And these specific wars were used as proxies for governments to come in and to destroy their own citizens, put them in concentration camps, get them jobs and get rid of them, poison the water, poison the food, come in and take over lands compulsory. These are tools that governments throughout the whole world on agenda have been using to recreate this economic system that we live in every 100 years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So this is probably the end time, and those who are people who read the Bible will know what I mean by end time, where you can't buy or sell without the mark, and Christians will liken the digital ID to the mark of the beast. But if you look at it, during COVID, they were telling us Barbadians that we could not buy or sell unless we had a job, or we can go into the supermarket.
One second, Kimar. I'm not sure. There is a sound that's coming from somewhere. I'll check yourself to see if it's you. Like like you're hitting on something. It's gone now.
But
it's
good
gone
now. Are you?
It's good now. Yeah.
Right. So some Christians liken the job to the mark of the beast, where you cannot buy or sell in the new economic system without that. So the digital ID that's coming into Barbados it will get to a point that you cannot buy or sell or do any trade without that digital ID, and it is coming to government services, and it is starting with the elderly on the transport board bus, and then eventually it will go over to healthcare, and it will go over to all the other institutions that government have in terms of offering their social services to Barbadians. That if you do not take that digital ID, and when they try to implement the second lockdown, and your job status does not say that you're a job, that they will most likely shut you out of the system, because they will have access to your medical records, they will have access to your financial records, they will have access to all your records. They will even outlaw the old passports and give you and register your information on this digital ID. So everything about you will be on this specific ID. So you can't hide from them. And they will say to you, if you do not comply with the ID, you cannot benefit from any government service whatsoever. And if you look at it, mostly people who use government service are the poor people.
Correct.
So so I'm saying the country is basically trending towards being plunged into poverty. And that's the way we're heading with this digital quote unquote transformation that they're talking about.
This is really profound, Mr. Franklin, because it's putting everything that we're saying in a context. And this show, Heather will know, this is not how we planned the show tonight, but everything is like flowing like it's supposed to happen. Honestly, it's like this flow that is happening, because what you have just said, Kimar, there is really bringing a lot of understanding to why they are pushing the pinning of these cards. And what is really sad about this, Mr. Franklin, is that, I can't understand. They say when the problem with lying is that you don't remember sometimes what you said before. And this our Prime Minister, Mia Mottley, and her minister, they told us that it was not mandatory to pin. In fact, they said, pinning, what are you all talking about? Connected to your bank account? They said it's conspiracy theory. Who remember that? You remember that, Kimar?
Yeah. But they are being paid to lie to us. But they signed on to the same UN sustainable goals, and they have to push that because they took the money to push it, and they have a specific deadline to push these digital or this. There's an entire handbook handed down to Caribbean governments. There were at least 10 of them who went to a meeting, and this was Davison Ishmael as Minister of Digital Transformation, and they signed on to the Port of Spain Declaration for Digital Transformation of Caribbean Governments, and they were handed a handbook from one of the directors of the IDB telling governments how to implement this digital transformation within their public services.
So it was part of the plan to deceive us. And anybody, regardless of what party you're from, if you do not believe this particular issue, that about the ID was a deception, I don't know. I mean, you need. My grandmother would say you need a washout from the Kool-Aid that you drank, because this is clearly deception. And then they're planning to have a town hall to discuss it. You're liars. I'm not going to be kind to you. The Bible itself called actions like this lies. It's a lie. You have lied to the Barbadian public, and you cannot get away with it. You have lied. You have deceived the people that have put you in power. It's a lie. Prime Minister Mottley, this is a lie. You have deceived. I heard people telling me, I'm not going to worry about it because I don't have to pin my ID. But now, we can see, we're not stupid, that everybody will be required to pin it or will be out of the services, and they're trying that with the elderly. This is the height of wickedness. And you need to come out in your numbers on Saturday and let them know by the time they come to meet on Monday, they need to know that the country rejects this and the country understand that you, our leaders that we trusted and we put you in power, that you lied to us.
Yeah.
But
What's the next thing that's coming? So this one again, this last point, Caswell. The next thing that's coming is that this digital ID push no is linked to the pension reform. And they are going to say to the pensioners that you cannot get any pension unless you are signed on to that digital ID and your digital ID is pinned to the bank account. And they are going to push all pension payments and link it to that digital ID. And if you don't have that digital ID, you will receive no pension payouts in Barbados.
But also, Himar, you remember the past piece of legislation in 2021, and they didn't tell anybody anything. They only did it and had it said, now they're waiting to implement this new ID card. Remember, I don't remember the name offhand right now, but I remember reading that act, and it says that you can't get a license. Remember? You can't get a passport, and you can't vote. But they did that act, and it was done. I will never forget. When I checked back, because when I saw it, Winston is the person who sent it to me. And I thought it was a new piece of legislation because I had not seen it before. I checked through my old documents, went through my emails and stuff that I got from Parliament, and I never saw the bill. So I said, wait. I searched and read it, but it's 2021. I'm going to check to see the date that it was debated. It was the day when Monique Tate, Senator Tate, Senator Drex, and myself had written in excuses to say that we are not going to be able to make it to the Senate that day. And they passed it in an emergency procedure in one day, a bill that they wanted to use in 2023. So I don't understand how it would be so urgent that you have to pass it in all its stages in an emergency procedure in one day. You know why they did that? Because they didn't want us to see it. Because Senator Tate and Drex and myself would have had something to say about it. But we did not know. They didn't tell us anything. And nobody, and when I checked the thing that Vincent sent to me, I was like, you can't get the passport without it. You can't get a driver's license without it. You can't go to the hospital without it. So they already have it in place. They're just not telling you. But you see, they're saying that they're pushing back the implementation. All the time they're pushing it back because they don't have all the support to get it going. So that's why they keep pushing back. I remember, and that's why I tell Ishmael Davidson, Ishmael, whatever his name is. I remember one day he coming out saying, that there's some technical issues. So that's why they had to push back the date for implementation. And then the next day, the Prime Minister had a press conference. She came and said, all around the cards. I can't trust them. They don't even coordinate their lives then. So 1 minute saying one day something, and minute Prime Minister can say something else in that day. I don't know which one to believe.
But I hate being lied to. I hate being lied to. And I heard people, I heard senior citizens, I heard them saying, I was talking to them about the idea and tell them I don't trust it. And I heard Mr. Franklin telling me, but Mrs. Weeks, it's okay because I don't have to pin it. And now, why would they do this to people? Why would they do that? Why would they tell such lies and expect that they're going to get away with the PM says new deadline for Trident ID push to 2024, but PIN cards will be needed. Huh? How come PIN cards will be needed now and Barbadians is going to sit down and take this like this? You're going to sit down and take this like this when they told us that it was not needed, that we didn't have to PIN. And now we're going to have to PIN and you're going to sit down and take it like this?
They said it was not mandatory. Remember the Attorney General?
It's not mandatory.
It's not mandatory. And they said so because Jamaica had a similar bill and people in Jamaica put it before the courts and the court ruled that it was unconstitutional. So they came out and said, it's not mandatory, but if you want it, you can get it. I remember that. I remember it well. The Attorney General came out and misled. I want to say lie, but I'm going to give him a break this time. He came out and he misled the country by saying it was not mandatory, because everything that they're doing now with this card shows that it is mandatory. Eventually, if you are a person, you want to get on the bus and you want to travel from Eagle Hall to Bridgetown, you gotta have the card pinned, or you gotta stick it in your pocket and put out some money, or no, they're going to cash the system. How you get on the bus because that card can facilitate your travel. You see, so I don't trust them. I don't trust anything that they have to say. Anybody remember the name of the bill? I trying to find the bill that proposed it. The
Let me
identity
see.
management.
You said Winston had sent it to you.
Yeah.
The data protection bill. It was called
No,
the data protection bill, or so that they brought this.
it was another something national. It was some ID management something. I can't remember exactly what the name.
The
I'm trying to.
national identification system.
No, I'm not seeing that ending and the things that were passed here.
Let me see if Winston can.
Because if I know the name, I can pull it up and read the actual sections to you. But I
Yes,
can't.
I'm sending a message to him.
I remember section 12 of that bill. I remember reading it, but I don't remember the name. You see.
Okay, is it identity management bill? Somebody says that the identity management bill is a P2A 36. Folks, while we search for that bill, I don't know, man. Tonight, I don't know. This something is burning in me, guys. And this is we have to rise up. This the Barbados Identity Management Act. Is that it?
Let me see. I gotta look for Barbados.
Yes. He Caswell is searching for it. They
Ma-
can't even
Marcia, in the
coordinate
meantime,
their lives. Yes. Go ahead.
in the meantime, Caswell looks for the bill. I wanted to read something I think that you may like, and it says here, not all will comply. History has made it abundantly clear that there is never 100% compliance with any system of national or international control. Some minority groups will raise their voices in protest against the system, but philosophical persuasion, legislative pressure, and some inexplicable miraculous phenomenon of the objecting minorities. Those who oppose for religious reasons will not give in either to the arguments or to the legal pressure, and their protests will bring matters to crisis proportions.
Wow.
Harsh penalties will be administered. Harsh penalties will be administered to those who oppose the system, but this will not silence them. Even the threat of the death penalty will not deter them in their protests. The world will
Wow.
therefore be brought to the greatest crisis in the history of mankind, and those who refuse to comply will give historical and scriptural evidence to prove that there's no empirical or global system that can succeed by trampling on the rights of the individual in matters of conscience and faith.
What is the name of that book you're reading from? What's the name of the
This is a
book?
book by, I could give you the author of the book. It
Yeah.
says uh, it's called Dr. Elliot Douglas. Uh,
Okay.
the book is called the New World Economic Order.
Wow. Listen, this is it is so correct, and the thing is we have to make up our mind to suffer. That's the thing. We have to make up our mind to suffer, and that's the thing. Are we ready to do that? Are we ready to do that? Because what you've read tonight here just like feels like we're living it's a playbook, and it's just happening before us, and as I said, tonight's show is not this is not how I envisioned tonight's show. I had the areas put down how we're going to, and Mr. Franklin came in, set the tone. Then the only thing I had on here was a child protection bill. That happened. We had other things, Heather and I, other things that we discussed, how we're going to, and it just went a different way because we could feel a divine hand that is guiding us and that it will guide us on Saturday, September 16th. God is with us, people. God is with us. Don't fear anything. Put on your clothes, get up early, get your tea, eat some breakfast, right? Get your water bottle and come out on Saturday. Don't fear. No need to fear. God is with us. God is with us. Come out, invite the family, bring out people, call up your church sisters, the church brothers, invite them. Don't think about party now. Don't think the party can't save us.
Yes,
BLP or DLP can't save us.
I found the
Yes,
section that I wanted to read for you to show you
yes.
how
What
insidious.
is it? The Barbados Identity Management Bill?
Yes, it is. And
Thank you so much. Thank you so
section,
much, the person
section,
who found it.
section 510. Section
Yes.
510. It says a person who is not registered under this act shall not A, be added to the national register, be assigned a national registration number, be issued with an identification card or a national identity credential, B, qualify to be added to the register of electors or the revised register of electors prepared under the Representation of the People Act, qualify to obtain a driver's permit or license, or qualify to access any service or goods which require the presentation of an identification card to obtain such services or goods. Now, you see why it says so insidious. One, you can't vote. You're going to be a non-person in Barbados if you don't get this ID card. You can't vote. You can't drive, and you can't go out to get any services because when you go to the hospital, I went to get some blood tests at the time. They tell me ID card. Remember, at the hospital, you can't obtain the services at the hospital. Now, if you go to the bank, people tell you, people that you know, they want you to produce your ID card. I remember sometime back, I went to national insurance and somebody asked me ID card. I blew up because I was so angry because that person knew me well. I trained that person when I was at national insurance, and then like I asked for ID card because they are no conditioning you to have this card and no other. Because once you see an ID card is supposed to identify you to a third party. Now, before, if I knew Heather Cole, I could say, oh yes, this guy's girlfriend, I know Heather Cole, so good. And the bank or whoever, especially working in the bank, would accept that. No, they want ID card. For what purpose? They know the person is you, but they want your ID card. So if you do not have an ID card, you might not be able to go to the bank and get your money. So you see how insidious this government has. And the thing is, they did this in the darkness. They hid it from the people because this was passed in 2021 and nobody knew. But all these things were
Caswell,
planned and they did not. Yeah, and they did not. And they passed it in 2021. They did not tell anybody, but they wanted this act to be effective in 2023. So why did you not educate the people? Why did you tell them that it was coming? Why did you do it in one day so everybody would get a chance to discuss it? You know, it was done in the dark. It was done with evil intent. Now, pray tell me, why do you want what? I have a passport. Why is my passport good enough to identify me to the United States government, to the St. Lucian government, to the government all over the world, but it will not be good enough to identify me in Barbados? Huh? I would need a passport to travel outside of Barbados. And that passport tells the country that I'm going to, this is Caswell from Barbados. You mean to tell me I can't take that same passport and go to Bra, go to the bank, go to the hospital and say, this is Caswell from Barbados? No, I want this ID card. Or I can't get these services. It is insidious. These people know what they're carrying instructions. I don't think they know what they're doing, but they're carrying instructions of the people who who pull their strings, they're puppet masters. It is that bad. And people are only going to realize it when you don't have the ID card. Well, I don't have any. I don't intend to get one. I have one already. It's quite cute. So I am not.
Well, Caswell, the thing already provided for persons like you who they call you a stateless person, and they already have a clause in the IDB handbook which speaks to people who purposely choose not to go and get the ID, and persons who choose not to go and get the ID, they're prescribed like it's called like a miniature life. So the persons who got the ID will get all the full services, all the full perks of life. But for people like you, they will have you on almost permanent lockdown. You can't travel, you can't go anywhere, you can't get government services. So if you're a broke man, you know you can struggle into poverty. And if you're rich, you might still be able to bend and twist your way around the system. But it's all part of this whole birth plan with the IMF that Barbados has, right? This thing about going cashless into a cashless society, and part of the same global system that they're speaking about says that all people are supposed to be registered, numbered, and monitored. And even if you look at China, China has what you call a social credit score, where the Chinese government monitors every single transaction of its citizens, right? Look at it. Almost every government department in Barbados has been hacked already. The NAS was hacked. Y'all remember the other day when I hacked the hospital?
Mhm.
I had the hospital
yes.
couldn't function, right? Any institution in Barbados could be hacked. And we know talking about we're going to put all of our information, all the business information online in a database created by people who are not even Barbadians, who are going to put all of the spyware and all of the worms that they could get in the system and crash it when they want, however they want, that they could come in and steal the information of Barbadians and hold the government to ransom for millions and billions of dollars to get back its own country's information. These are things that happen in the world every day, right? And still the government is following this IDB handbook on how to bring about this digital system. And this particular system that they're choosing is the worst, because they are much more functional and better digital ID systems than the government choose. But we choose the worst one. And the worst one meaning this one is specifically for state surveillance, where governments can monitor the transaction of the people who live in the system. This particular one that the Barbados government chose is like that. Check out
Can I
Venezuela.
add? Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Finish. Go ahead.
I was just saying, check out Venezuela and check out the countries that practice communism. And if you look at their national identification digital system, it is almost a draconian system where, as I say, every single transaction is monitored by the government, and the government, through its social credit score, can turn you off from even getting on the bus, right? And on all of these surveillance cameras and stuff that they're setting up all through Barbados and that are setting up all through countries, again talking about safety and peace and security, more vigilance and more surveillance and more cameras and I mean, it will get so bad that not even in your...
Kimar, let me just say something quick, as you said about surveillance, because remember, from way in COVID, right here at 6 Roads, I don't know where else has it, but they already set up the system for the cameras on the road. Anybody have seen that? And I remember people were asking, why are they setting this thing up now? So all of this is a plan. Anybody seen those? It's like it's across the road.
There's one in Bajans and there's one then coming out Waterford bottom.
So they've already set up the system for surveillance is already set up in Barbados. Guys, open up your eyes and see it, and before it is too late. Before it, I'm begging you. I'm begging Barbados. Go ahead, Heather.
If we have digital voting machines in Barbados, digital voting systems, the next step would be rigged elections using these PIN cards. And it is not impossible. Remember when they had a Dominion voting systems here in the US, and people said that they could manipulate the votes? Well, if we have a digital voting system, we will have rigged elections in Barbados. There will be no guarantee that the person or a person or a government has actually won their seat.
I remember when Alabama first lost.
You're so correct, Caswell. There wasn't a Caswell. There wasn't a scenario where there was discussion between the EBC and this national ID system, where the chief electoral officer was the one speaking to Barbadians about digital ID.
Yeah, because they use it for electoral purposes. This, as a matter of fact, Electoral and Boundaries Commission are the agents to push this card. They're using
Wow. So I'm not going to vote then because I'm sorry. I'm not doing that. So you
We
see,
have
this
to
is
vote.
where,
We have to
but,
vote.
but they need to stop it. We need to
So we
stop
need
it
to
or else
stop
we're
it
not
so
going to
that
be
we
able
can
to
vote.
vote. We're not going to be
Exactly.
able to vote, people. This is
We need to
serious.
stop it so that we can
I
vote.
don't know. I don't know how much plainer this thing can be put. Listen, we need to be in here. We need to be out on Saturday. Hear me tell you, because she'll be back in here, and our prime minister need to understand that we are rejecting this. We are whatever she went and signed on is almost like they handpicked her, and we are moving faster than every Caribbean island. The people in Jamaica stopped theirs. They stop it and slow it down. She's moving so fast. Because why she's moving so fast? Because we're not stopping her. Go ahead, Caswell.
Heather, when you're talking about this dominion voting system thing and checks and rigging elections, I remember when Barbados lost the government in 1976. I'm a young fella. He lost in 76. I had a reason to be speaking with him, me and a group of people, younger people, and he said that Barbados was not bitter or anything about losing the elections, and he said it's good because then it shows that the government can change and all kind of stuff. So Barbados was philosophical, and he said, but when he lost the election, Burnham and Guyana told him, well, Errol, I don't understand how a Senate prime minister can lose an election. So when you have these guys, a Senate prime minister will not lose an election in Barbados, and back to good old Burnham, But there's something else in this act that says that with your consent, they can take your fingerprints. I don't want nobody with my fingerprints.
Wow.
Because next thing
And you're saying that this act was passed already, the Barbados identity.
Yeah, it was passed in 2021 in secret because they did not tell us it was going to be on the order paper. They didn't tell us, and they did it when we had written in the day before and said that we will not be able to attend the Senate on that day, and they passed it in that day fast. A bill, they should have laid it in the House and circulated it. Not just pass it in one day. So I never got a chance to see it till a couple of years later. Vincent sent it to me. I thought it was a new piece of legislation. I know it was already passed and it was in the Senate. I didn't know it was passed and it was in the Senate.
Wow.
So this was done with evil intent. I don't care what anybody tell me. And the thing is too, I can find it for you. But in this particular act, it talks about you can consent to have your fingerprints taken and put on the card. So you don't know that you just giving up everything, because I'm not saying that somebody's going to steal anything, but if you left your fingerprints anywhere, it's in the system. The police will come and get it. The police don't have to investigate. The police will have your ID card, your fingerprints in the system, and you will just go and God knows they might say, "Oh no, we're not going to give it to the police." We're not going to give it to the police what? But people say, "Oh, even here at the United States Embassy was on Broad Street, you saw people used to pack rocks and break up show windows. The next thing the police got them. How do you think the police got the thing? The Americans used to get them, even though they're not supposed to. You remember the United States Embassy had cameras going all the way out to sea up by Central Police Station, down Broad Street, up Broad Street. So people getting Broad Street do nonsense, never knew that they were being monitored. And then the police come and say, well, it is you that brought that story on the last day. And poor father even not be called about it in town. No? But they were not, but so they get, so they will have you even more closely monitored. I'm giving about the prints. If you want them, give me a train and book me. And if I'm not guilty, I want them back.
But you all know that part of the same digital identification systems is something called cell phone portability. If you all listen to the radio, there's lyric on the radio keep singing the song. Keep your number, come cross. And you know, no matter if you have a line phone, they want to have you with the same telephone number all the time. So even if you switch from line, they just say you can keep the same number, right? That thing about cell phone portability is dangerous because that's a way to identify you in the system.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go to buy a SIM card, and you register your name on the SIM card, that becomes your digital footprint. So whenever you log on to the LiveWire system, it registers that Caswell Franklin on the number 2499999 had this amount of traffic or did this online or whatever. So it's just a means and ways to track you and locking you into the same number.
Mm-hmm.
That whenever you log into the network, they have a digital footprint that they can monitor your behavior online in terms of telephone usage. So, but look at the way that they market it. They get the entertainer to come and say, you know, keep your number and come cross, and the same party fancy, but it's just a smart way to give you a digital footprint without you knowing. So this is where no governments and private sector organizations, where the government would use these people to push their agenda on the masses without the masses suspecting what is happening. So they know that they're signed on to these UN development goals and they have to implement these policies and these digital policies. I remember a couple of years ago when I think it was the last government that tried to bring biometric scanning here, where when you come through the airport or so you had to give fingerprints, and I think and Commission stood up against that and had that shot down. That was rude. That could have happened in Barbados.
Really?
So it shocks me now.
Yeah, yes, he did.
He did. Commission stood up when they wanted to do that. Interesting.
Was involved in that case too, wasn't he? Kimara? Edmund Hickson wasn't in part of that too?
Pardon?
If Edmund Hickson was part of the case, I think...
I didn't hear...
No, I'm asking you if you can recall if Edmund Hickson was also a part of that. And because I remember...
He could have probably been one of the attorneys on the case.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I think so, you know, but they fought against it. Can't happen here.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you something. Well, anything happen here for Commission now. He people in power.
Okay, they're saying they can't hear you very well, Caswell. We can't hear Caswell very well. Okay. While you do that, there's somebody who's called in, so let me just give them a chance. We also have Mr. Bob. Is Mr. Bob still here? Mr. Bob, I don't see him. Mr. Bob, if you're listening, come back on because we promised. I know the spirit is moving in a different way tonight, to be honest. But I promised you, so if you're listening and you can come back on. But let's just, while Caswell organizing himself, but tonight is a very, very special night, guys. I tell you. Hold a second. Let me see. Hi, Mr. Newton. Can you hear me?
Yes, I am hearing you clearly.
Okay. Can you speak up a little louder?
I just wanted to respond to something Kimar said earlier. And I am quoting from a document I wrote back in 1997. In fact, it was my presentation to the Fourth Commission on Constitutional Reform. And it was a warning against world government. In order to tie in what I want to say, I need to make reference to an event that occurred back then. So let me begin. Sir, the United States jubilation over Trinidad and Tobago's willingness to put aside outmoded notions of sovereignty is nothing new. This has always been a lustful desire of the United States of America, and this is the part I want you to follow.
Mm-hmm.
In 1972, Roy M. Ashe declared within 2 decades that sometime before 1992, the instrumental framework for a world economic community will be in place. For him, aspects of individual sovereignty will be given over to supranational authority. Then another person said, James P. Warburg, he declared, a world order without laws is an anachronism, and that since war now means the extinction of civilization, a world which fails to establish the rule of law over the nation states cannot long continue to exist. That we are living in a perilous period of transition from the era of the fully sovereign nation state to the era of world government. And then on February 17, 1950, he declared, we shall have world government whether you like it or not. If not by consent, then by conquest. In a similar vein, Dr. Brooke Chislon, director of the World Health Organization, stated, and this is important for tonight, to achieve world government, it is necessary to remove from the minds of men their individualism, loyalty to family tradition, national patriotism, and religious dogma. Right? I was very concerned about what was developing way back in 1997, and I brought this to the attention of the Fourth Commission on Constitutional Reform, and today my concerns are now being relayed. All that is happening in Barbados today with the digital ID and everything that Kimar spoke about is now in fulfillment of those long-range plans. And I want you to know the part about the world government. Dr. Chislon, director of World Health Organization, he said, to achieve world government, it is necessary to remove from the minds of men their individualism, loyalty to family tradition, national patriotism, and religious dogma.
Wow.
So we shouldn't be scared.
Well, thank you, Mr. Newton. That's Nigel Newton. Thank you so much. That was so, brought a lot of confirmation and understanding even from way back then. So thank you so much, Mr. Newton, for calling in. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Bye.
Okay. Oh boy, this is I am Mr. Franklin. What we get caught up in? This thing is bigger than all of us here. You know, Heather. This one is bigger than us. This is not the show that I envisioned in my mind. I tell you the truth, not the show. I promised Mr. Bob because he's dealing with a situation. And my heart goes out to people that were unjustly being treated unjustly. This is how we started the show, talking about unjust treatment, and we're going to end the show with that. But this is something Friday, guys. We have to come back to at this. Come back, Kimaru. Come back, Mr. Franklin. Come back, Heather. We have to get into this thing deeper still. This Barbados Identity Act, this is the next one that we need to tear up and dash it away. The Barbados Identity Act, we have the pension bill, we have the NIS bill, the child protection bill. Now we have a new constitution that they're supposed to listen. These people are just mashing up the country. We don't trust this government. But let's hear from Mr. Bob. Mr. Bob, good night. I know you're turned sideways. I don't know what the reason is.
Don't know.
Can you? But we can hear you. Yes, yes. I think you got it. You got it there, and then it went back. You got it, and then it went back.
I'm not sure what is happening.
What's happening? But go ahead and listen. Let's hear what you are saying to us. Go ahead.
I good evening to all the viewers. Good evening to your panel. Um, Most of Barbados would have known, if they are not know by now, that I took part in the last elections, and as a result, a case was brought against me by the chief educational officer. And at that point in time, I sought the advice and the representation of Mr. Caswell Franklin. And I can recall at the meeting that he said to the commission that my matter was a constitutional one and they were not um, qualified as a commission to hear constitutional matters.
Mhm.
Subsequent to that, we saw a case in the court which said that what was done to us teachers was unconstitutional. And after that, my other colleague was given his notice of reinstatement, and that was sent to the school by the ministry. And up to today, I have not still received.
Okay,
We can't hear
we
him.
can't hear you now. Can you jump in there, Caswell, because of time? Go ahead.
Yes, yeah, I can. There were two. You see, there were two cases. Him and Pedro Shepherd. I made identical submissions to the panels because they were separate panels. One panel accepted my submission and stood down the case so that the court can decide. The other panel went ahead and recommended that he be suspended for some period of time on half pay. Now the courts have decided that it was unconstitutional. They're going to fix that, but they don't know what to do because they wrote that when they suspended him, they gave him the right to appeal to the Privy Council. The Privy Council is not the one in England; it is the local Privy Council, the President's Privy Council. But in that body, there is no representation. You don't go before the Privy Council and outline your case. You write documents, and somebody else writes something, and you go in there, and then they decide if you're going to do it or not. But in the Public Service Act and in the Constitution of Barbados, there is a provision for a public service appeals board that can hear appeals. Let me find it for you. I have the act here somewhere. An appeal shall lie to the Public Service Appeal Board from a decision of a service commission or a decision of any person to whom the powers of the commission has been delegated in respect of disciplinary proceedings other than dismissal brought against the public officer. He was not dismissed, so he had the right under the Constitution and he had the right under this act to appeal to the board. I didn't apply to the commission, because as I said, because that is a waste of time. And you can't speak to them. They decided on papers. They have not constituted the Public Service Appeal Board since it was established in 2007. It was established in 2007, but they have not appointed the board yet. So I'm saying, well, I can force them to appoint the board so they can hear this matter because I want this matter ventilated. So what they're doing, they wouldn't constitute the board so that he can get back to work.
Okay,
this board was made, provision was made by this board for the first time on the 31st of December 2007. It's to hear appeals from cases like his. And to this day, nobody has constituted the board. So the people at the service, the public service, but the local public service commission or the administrative general and professional service commission are supposed to be dealing with this and must get the board put in place by the Prime Minister and the President or whoever. But they're not doing it. They're just ignoring him, even though he has certain constitutional rights.
Mm. Oh my goodness. You see, this is part of the injustice, and I'm so sorry that he's not, the internet is giving trouble and he's having problems. But imagine, all we have to do, and this is it, I don't know Mr. Bob personally. I've seen him, but I don't have, any strong relationship with him. But I don't have to. All I have to do, Heather, is put myself in his position. That's all I have to do. I have to just put myself in his position and think about being treated unfairly because, he was convicted, he was tried, and then they said he did something wrong. They found out later that they made a mistake. Okay, it was not a mistake, but they were wrong. And they have not reinstated him. School has started. Okay, he's a teacher. He loves to teach. You think that somebody should have to go through all of that when you made an error? You made an error. The chief education officer that walks around with, also princess, she allowed them to use her. This is, what's her name? I can't remember her name now.
Ramona Archer Bradshaw.
Ramona Archer Bradshaw up there doing nonsense. Right? Yeah, go ahead.
I well remember when she brought the case, when she was a witness now, and I'm questioning her, I asked her what authority she had to bring this case. And she said, under the provisions of the Court of Discipline. And she said, but she can't remember the thing. I said, you mean the one that says the permanent secretary or head of the department, paragraph 4.2, or head of the department shall within 14 days of becoming aware of misconduct of a serious nature? She said, yes, that's it. I said, so, okay, then tell me, are you also the permanent secretary of Ministry of Education? She said, no. So I said, well, in that case, then you have to be the head of the department. Which department you're head of again? So she couldn't answer that. So I said, because I'm looking at the act and I'm looking at the air schedule, and I come all down the schedule, and I don't see you. You're not head of the department. So where you get the authority from? Then she claimed, that the commission, but signing that. I said, no. The commission has to appoint a person if the head of the department or the permanent secretary doesn't do it. The commission then has to pick somebody. Did they pick you? The answer then was, the permanent secretary told me to do it. So she answered that question 3 different ways. Each time I showed her what the law said. She had no authority whatsoever to bring this case. But you want to know why she could bring it? I had to bring it. She's on contract. Remember, we complained that the government had people on contract and they got to do the minister's bidding.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they don't do the minister's bidding, when the contract up renewal, you ain't got a job no more. And that is why I said it was dangerous to put senior public officers on contract. Comptroller Customs on contract. Let's say he has a case against somebody and is a minister friend, and his contract coming up renewal, that case gone. Civil servants are supposed to be permanent. Ministers and parliamentarians are supposed to be temporary in our system of governance. But no, the politicians make everybody temporary so they can abuse the system. And that is what is happening here. And I believe with all my heart and everything I have my head with and believe it, that this was the reason why they were brought. Because Cynthia Ford was a teacher. She was campaigning for years. Nobody did anything. She campaigned when the Barbados Labour Party was in office. She campaigned when the Dems were in office. And nobody paid her any mind. Several other people campaigned. They never brought cases against them. But why they brought cases against 2 Dems? That's the point I made. And that's where they start then looking for a few beats to put it up. Because other people, Sandra Bradshaw's election agent was a teacher. And they didn't bring a case against her. You see, it was political victimization. The Penny Prime Minister said, but she wanted to give the Dems 2 seats. in the Senate, a lot of nonsense. At the same time, they were trying to destroy the Dems. So you're saying in one breath, oh, I trying to help them and get them 2 seats in the Senate, but at the same time, you're destroying them. And when no other person in the history of Barbados after independence was charged under these provisions, mind you, the Constitution changed those provisions because those provisions were not effective after the Constitution came into force, because the Constitution only barred 3 people from running: a judge, director of public prosecutions, and the Auditor General. Those were the only 3 people the Constitution barred. The Constitution then went on to say, at Section 44, that Parliament can determine other people. By ordinary legislation, they can name other people or posts that cannot run. So between 1966 and now, Parliament has not specified who those other people should be. So that means that anybody can run except those 3 people, because there was no bar for anybody else, and they knew it. But they wanted so hard to destroy the Democratic Labour Party to make sure that they will never get back in office. Mind you, and this was coming from a Dem, because she was once a Dem. She decided, or they decided, that those people going to be charged. And it was the fastest charge ever heard in the public service. I have cases going on for 5, 6, 7 years that didn't get before a panel yet, and they got there in weeks. You know, that is the problem. Everything that happens in Barbados is to keep the Barbados Labour Party elected. So even if they have the rig elections, Heather, they will do it. Because this is the nature of the beast.
You know, and that what it is he's being victimized, and people who are outside of Barbados, you would understand. Sometimes you hear us talk and about victimization, but it's a real issue. I mean, I'm not going I'm going through my own, but I don't worry about it, because you know, when I signed up for this thing here, Heather, I told God yes, you know, and I trust him to take care of me. So no matter what they do, all the stuff that they try with me, you know, I let it roll off my back. I don't think about it. I focus on my mission, right? I focus on my mission and what is happening with Alwyn Bob. All I say to Barbadians is always stop and put yourself in the position of the other person. Don't be selfish. If you have your job and everything is going good with you, okay, but stop and put yourself in that person's position. They did the same thing with the pastor down St. Lucie. Don't follow all of that narrative that you heard in the newspaper. They were making it up. They were trying to destroy that man and his church. You see, but they put a certain narrative in the newspaper, and they tried it with me. They came to my place, okay, to our school. They were trying it. But the grace of God, and that's why I stood up for that pastor even before I knew him. And I'm standing the same way I'm standing up for Alwyn Bob. And we have to do that. This is how we have to stick together. And I heard people saying, oh, when they didn't realize that he didn't break the law. On Facebook, people saying, oh, he know the law and he went and go and run. And the man did not, Alwyn Bob did not break the law. But they told you that and you believed it. They told you no, they need to rectify it because they lost the case. He didn't break the law, but they need to reinstate the man. And we have to stand up for Alwyn Bob. The same way we stood up for the lady with the young lady, Best, with the stall and Savvy and all of these people. We can't say Miss Ram because we all threw Miss Ram under the bus. Nobody stood up for Miss Ram.
Well, I did.
You did.
Marcy, a rare side too that Alwyn Bob in the political party, the same political party as I have not heard one statement in support or representing Alwyn Bob or Pedro Shepherd when it comes to this situation. So
I I remember the
What?
president of the Democratic Party. He had an interview with the press conference, the press briefing or press conference or whatever, and the representative from Barbados today asked him a question. And the question was, I think it was a easy question. I should not go to the bar about why about standing up for these people, and he started talking about all those laws that are archaic and need to be removed. He teaches law, and he should have known or read the damn thing because I had written I've written in the newspaper, I've been interviewed on the radio and on brass tacks telling them that there is no such law. But he got up there saying high and mighty talking about the law, the laws have to be changed. The laws have to be changed because there was no such law. You know, Martha want to leave you one such thing, but it's about victimization. Now it happened to another young lady. She was a victim of sexual harassment. This very senior public officer would even turn up at her house looking for business. And she couldn't take it no more. She used to hide from him, but he turned up for work. He would come and show she ain't got on a belt and all kind of nonsense. Easy access, you know. And so she couldn't even work overtime because every time she decided to do some work overtime, he turned up there making his ill intentions known. She came to me and I said, well, look, this is a very senior man and they're not going to believe you. You're a young girl, you're in your 30s and stuff. They're not going to believe you. So we have to play along. I want you to play along with him. I said, I ain't tell you to give anything. I tell you to play along with him. And when you these little text messages, you save all of them for me. And she did that. So when I had all these text messages then with all these little sweet nothings, he was like a little 16-year-old with a computer for the first time, writing all these sweet love notes and things. I had them. I presented them to the Attorney General, and they said he has to go. When they didn't do anything about it. So I called him again. I said, if he doesn't go by 2 weeks, I'm holding a press conference. But it went in 2 weeks. But that girl is still being victimized to this day because the nasty old man that troubled her had a lot of friends. They wouldn't, she's supposed to be promoted, well, not even promoted, but her salary adjusted, they wouldn't do it. After a certain amount of years in the service at a political position, you go to a higher salary. They wouldn't even raise her salary. They raise other people's. People who are junior to her. They're making life so miserable for that girl. It's ain't funny. I can't call them. I would not call her name because then, you know, she will get even more victimization. They made life so difficult for her. She then got an offer to work outside of Barbados, and she want permission to leave and go, and they won't even give you that permission either. They don't want her here, but they don't want you to work either. This place is so nasty. But let me tell you something. I eventually deleted those little love notes because they were turning my stomach. I had them on my computer, but they served their purpose. And this is not the only time. I remember another time I had another young lady who came to me with this permanent secretary who was doing the same thing, but his love notes weren't right in. So when she came to me, she gave me a story. I said, listen to me. Look, what you're telling me don't make a lot of sense. Did he try to, you know what, to you? And she then dumped half of these love notes in front of me. So we can't blame for him. But I can't blame for him. We go to the meeting and he denied it. And I said, well, if you would have any interest in her, why you send these love notes? He said, well, love notes, I send the love notes. So he denied all. He said 3 times, you don't know what I'm talking about. So I dropped them in front of him with a plop. Plop. And I said, so what are these? And his next words were, he didn't get a word after that. So I turned to the chairman and I said, Chairman, you want me with a few for you? He said, no, that would be necessary. Well, he got transferred. That was his punishment, a transfer. But he was an acting permanent secretary. But this girl, that first we talk about, she is still being victimized. I don't know how much more she can take it. Because when she was being harassed sexually, her pressure went up. She walked out in a rash because she didn't because of that man. And then people say, oh, she went to his house and all kind of bunch of foolish shit. Went in the house, they had an office party, and it was said at his place, and she was there with everybody else. But they got her picture of the thing and say she was at his house. A lot of nonsense that they tried to destroy that young woman. And let me tell you, a lot of people now are cringing because they think I'm calling him. I'm not gonna call him. I can tell you, Marshall, is when we are off the air.
Yes, and you know, I'm not going to tell nobody.
You know?
But you see, it's a similar thing that is happening. Well, it's not that similar with not the same thing, but it is similar. Where Alvin Bob stepped out in his right, he had his constitutional right to do what he did, and then they decided to victimize him for it, and the government lost the case and will not reinstate. They need to officially reinstate Alvin Bob, and because this is wrong. Why should they do it? It's wrong. We don't care if he's a D or a B. It could be your cousin. It could have been your uncle. It could have been your father. It is wrong. It is wrong. And if they can do it to Alvin Bob, they would do it to me. They would do it to Heather. They would do it to Kimar. They would do it to Caswell. You see, and this is why it's wrong. We cannot stand for it. Okay, so this is something that we have to keep on the burner. Keep this on the burner. Write it in your Facebook. Write about it. Write an article about it. Pressure them. Pressure the Ministry of Education. Put pressure on them. Write them about it.
Look at your phone.
I'm looking at my phone. But
That's the harasser.
Wow. Oh my God. This place is corrupt, people.
He had to resign.
Corrupt. Corruption. Corruption. Oh, Lord of mercy. Corruption. Corruption.
You see the good work that I do, Marcia?
Yes, I see.
I got him about the system.
Well, I'm hoping that something can happen for Mr. Bob. And so we're going to be back again, guys. Tonight was, I don't know about you, tonight was so rich. Tonight was so special. Heather, we didn't do what we planned, but there's a reason. So Heather, Heather, close us out for us, Heather. Close out for us, Heather. You're muted, Heather.
The topic that I wanted to discuss, I think
don't go into too much. Don't go into too much.
Until Monday. I'll leave it until Monday after the march, because too much has happened tonight, and I don't want to take people's thoughts off the things that we discuss. However, I've just put up a note on the screen to remember to make our donations towards the march. And I am quite happy with the way they turned out tonight. We had a total of 405 persons in attendance tonight, which is really significant. And I want to thank the entire panel, Caswell Franklin, Mr. Vincent Smith, and Kimar Stewart, for enlightening us as usual. It is good to listen to things, but when they are educational, it makes us want to come back, because they serve as a purpose and a guide for the things that we want to achieve. So I am happy that so many people turned out, and please come again on Friday, where we will continue the discussion to see how we can put our brains together to resolve the problems of Barbados with a new administration. And thank you again from me.
Thank you so much. Very well said. I don't think we need to say anything else. We'll see everybody again on Friday.
Martha, I just want to say one thing quickly before we leave. From the book once more. The book says that in order for the new economic system to succeed, there will have to be the cooperation of politicians, religionists, economists, scientists, technologists, lawyers, and legal experts, are also involved with those in the commercial sector, the trade unions, and law enforcement agencies. And these The merging of these institutions, right, will be the beginning of the end of human rights, the freedom of opinion, the freedom of expression, the freedom of conscience, and freedom in terms of matters of religion and philosophy. And in time to come, countries across the world will seek to remove these basic human rights and freedoms from God's sovereign people. And that's why it's important for persons to come out to the march on Saturday. And that's why it's important for persons on this panel to continue to educate Barbadians and the world about what's going on. And I firmly believe that God will reward us for this great work that we're doing down here to save his people.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Oh, bless you all. See you Friday. I can't wait.
Right. Have a good
All
night.
right. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye-bye. Love you all. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.